Hello. Hi guys. Finally. The stream seems to be working. Let me know if it's working. If the audio is all fine or not. Working with a mouse is a big tough thing for me. Yeah, bhai. Wait, okay. Let some people join. I'm opening the article now. You guys can obviously see my screen today because I'm from the laptop. We did till page 75. बहुत हो गया था कल. We discussed all this. We did good progress. आज पूरा ख़त्म कर देंगे. मेरा माउस का वायर कट हो गया. And I'll keep an eye on the live chat from here. Is the audio fine? Okay. Great, we'll start now. My mouse was working fine. I bought it with my second month's salary back in 2014. The wire got cut because it got stuck in my keyboard tray. Lol. Yeah. So this is where we are supposed to start from. No. Mouse didn't cut. Mouse didn't cut my mouse. Man, this Google Meet is so slow. देखो स्क्रीन कास्ट में दबा के बैठा हूँ. लॉल. आज सब कुछ हैंग कर रहा है क्या? टेक्निकल डिफ़िकल्टी का दिन है आज. लगता है खुद का फेस बिना दिखाए आज पेपर डिस्कस करना पड़ेगा. एवरीथिंग इज क्रैशिंग. नाइस. इट्स एन अनलकी डे, अनलकी नाइट. हाँ दिख रहा है. ओके, लेट्स स्टार्ट. हेलो, एंजॉइंग योर चैनल सर. योर वीडियोस आर क्वाइट थॉट प्रोवोकिंग. थैंक्स अ लॉट. कहाँ से हैं आप? हाँ, माउस का वायर हैज़ बीन कट. चलो, लेट्स डिस्कस नाउ the rest of this paper by Venkat Dhulipala. He wrote the famous book Creating a New Medina in 2015, based on his PhD thesis paper which he did in 2008 from Minnesota University. And now he's a history professor in North Carolina or South Carolina University. And that book set the path for a different direction, different river of opinions, which basically was started by him, which no one else understood basically. Now Desai, Deepak, Sanjay Dixit, they have all taken the line of thinking, the lens of looking at partition, analyzing partition history from the lens created by Venkat Dhulipala himself. Okay, he's the pioneer in this field, because before that everyone used to blame either only Hindus or only Muslims. Muslims just wanted partition one day, and that's why it happened. Or were not adjusting to basic demands, that's why partition happened. Or British created divide and policy, that's why partition happened. All sorts of wrong crap used to be said by everyone. Venkat Dhulipala tracked it from their entire history, that no, it just didn't happen one fine morning. There were strong religious bases, there were strong, clear visions about what is Pakistan, why Pakistan, and that is why partition is going to happen. Then Jesai Deepak has taken it one step further in India Bharat Pakistan. He has tracked an even longer history of about 200 years basically, or at least 150 years of how the seeds of Pakistan were being planted, consciously, subconsciously, both, years back. So this paper is his refutation of the criticisms that were hurled at his book. Mainly, so far we are discussing the criticism by Faisal Devji, some sort of a historian who writes in The Wire occasionally. This is Devji's article in The Wire, which Venkat Dhulipala is refuting. We have read Venkat Dhulipala's countless refutations yesterday. We are reading the rest of the paper. He wrote an entire paper just to refute all the absolute crap of criticisms that were made by Faisal Devji. Okay, brother, you're from Gujarat. Nice. Ranchi, are Dhoni ka jagah. Nice. Let's start. So Jinnah, Muslim League, and the lack of subaltern turn. Interesting. Ye kya hai? Subaltern studies. Subaltern studies did a critical takedown of the Mahatma as a conservative upper caste figure who perpetuated hierarchical structures of Indian society and politics dominated by caste Hindus, thus precluding a China-style Maoist revolution in India. It was, however, very careful with Jinnah, that is, he's talking about subaltern studies now, Dhulipala. Its 11 volumes do not contain a single essay on Jinnah, similar to Shahid Amin's Gandhi as Mahatma. This is also an important point, because every time someone speaks about, Hinduism is bad because it has casteism. Brahmins did this, Brahmins did that, Brahmins did conversions, Brahmins were there, that's why conversions happened, Brahmins weakened society, that's why Islamic invasions happened, Brahmins don't let other people worship, Brahmins become Google CEO, etc. Not once will they ever mention the Ashrafs. Jinnah was an Ashraf. They are the upper caste Muslims. The people below the Ashraf caste in Islam, they don't get to do anything. They not forget marriage. How many high post, great politicians, great authors, or big CEOs, how many of them are non-Ashrafs in the Islamic world? Almost none. Basically none. So first of all, we need to stop defending ourselves now. That it was not meant to be, casteism was not meant to be this and that, Varnashram got distorted, etc. All those arguments come later. Or even if you just say that, okay, Varnashram was always meant to be distorted, it was going to be distorted anyway. That is Kushal Mehra's line of thinking, that ye hone hi wala tha. No one could have prevented it. So all those defenses come later. First defense is, what's your stand on Ashraf caste? First you have to ask anyone, whoever brings up Brahminism in every damn thing. Ask them what do they say about Ashrafs. How can divide and rule bunkum be consigned to dustbin of history? Divide and rule see, this is a great question, because I have been planning to bring up this topic in discussion, that if you want to be a so-called Indic winger or right winger in India today, the basic entry, the barrier to entry is pretty high, at least for the urban folk or people who want to watch a lot of videos and learn things. The barrier is getting higher every day, because so much of books are coming out, and plus we have so many Hindu texts for thousands of years. Unless you read a lot, you can't call yourself an Indic winger today. It just won't be on the basis of, okay, I hate Muslims. Your argument cannot begin and start and end with I hate Muslims. You need to back up your arguments that now everyone has the weapons to back their arguments up. Even if you hate Muslims and that is your entire argument, why you hate Muslims, that has to be explained very elaborately. So that's why we are getting a push of so much knowledge consumption and knowledge production on this side, which is absolutely not happening in the left-wing side, right? Leftists have written some books, they have captured the entire academia, movies, etc. And the people who call themselves leftists today hardly do any reading. Only the liberal arts graduation, masters, PhD people, they do some reading. But even other than them, so many people go around calling themselves leftist, right? Because being a leftist is easy. You just have to say, I am for poor people, I am for minorities. हो गया काम. क्यों poor people के लिए ऐसा क्या उखाड़ लोगे लेफ्टिस्ट पॉलिटिक्स करके जिससे poor people का भला होगा, minorities के लिए ऐसा क्या कर दोगे? वो एनालिसिस ज़रूरी नहीं है. उसने बोल दिया मैं poor people के और minority के साथ खड़ा हूँ तो मैं बड़ा आदमी बन गया. So that's how you become a leftist today. But in Indic wing, you have to study all these because you need to counter their elaborate 75 years, 100 years of bullshit that they have propagated. So हमको पढ़ाई करने के सिवा हमारा कोई second priority हो ही नहीं सकता. First priority is read up a lot. So how you can send this divide and rule bunkum to the dustbin of history? By spouting J.S.I. Deepak's arguments at him or forming your own arguments based on the things you have read. Track the entire history of partition and see the divide and rule by the British was not a significant aspect of the partition. That's how you tell them. You have to keep on debating everyone and उसके लिए बहुत पढ़ना पड़ेगा. Hindu businessmen in Lahore and Karachi were oppressing poor Muslims, so the partition happened. Yes. So subaltern studies. It was, however, very careful with Jinnah. Its 11 volumes do not contain a single essay on Jinnah, similar to Shahid Amin's Gandhi as Mahatma. In assessing my book, Faisal Devji gestures towards subaltern studies whilst ruling what he sees as recrudescence of national, imperial and Marxist histories in its wake. We need not hold our breath, that is, we don't have to wait for a subaltern interpretation of Jinnah, because according to Dhulipala, it's never coming. Instead, what we see is yet another hagiography. This is clear when, okay, let's just clear this up. What is the meaning of hagiography? Hagiography. The writing of the lives of saints. Yes. Life, appreciative life history बन जाएगा. देखो आदमी कितना अच्छा था. So he's saying that if at all they write a book on Jinnah, they will make it a hagiography. This is clear when Devji claims that Jinnah's views on the community he led indicate, quote unquote, a notion of representation not premised on his identification with them. He was just trying to. Devji's idea is that Jinnah was not a very serious Muslim. He was merely helping them out. He was merely standing up for them without even identifying with them religiously. A notion of representation not premised on his identification with them, and the leader appears in satanic solitude. This is a roundabout way of saying that Jinnah remained aloof from the masses. The reference to Satan is also meant to firewall Jinnah from charges of playing with religious sentiment. This guy is a Jinnah apologist, basically, Devji. Why is his surname Devji, man? With religious sentiments. In doing so, Devji presents us with another iteration of what the historian Dilip Simeon, my laptop is so small here I can't read. Dilip Simeon once tongue-in-cheek termed the ham sandwich theory of secularism. According to this theory, Mr. Jinnah is a bona fide liberal, secular figure since he wore Western suits, smoked cigarettes, drank alcohol, repeatedly ate ham sandwiches, raised dogs, never sported a beard or went on a Hajj. Such misleading formulations conflate lifestyle preferences with politics. Jinnah's religious gestures towards his base became pronounced from 1937 onwards, but these are conveniently ignored. See, this is what Abhijit Chavda had pointed out, that Jinnah used to be actually a liberal early on, and he actually wanted an united India. Later on, his mind changed. Leftists, why do they think that people's minds can't change? They will pick up one aspect of one section of one snapshot of Ambedkar's life when he wrote his books in 1935, when he wrote Annihilation of Caste, हो गया Ambedkar. That is the beginning and end of Ambedkar. Hinduism को गाली दे दिया, Annihilation of Caste लिख दिया, हो गया Ambedkar. उसके बाद 46 में क्या लिखा किसी को पता नहीं है. So that is why leftists bring up 15-year-old, 11-year-old tweets of people and then try to deplatform them. This is the same line of thinking. अच्छा, इंटरनेट चला गया था आज, कुछ अजीब दिन चल रहा है. सुनाई दे रहा था सबको? हाँ, ओके. ये फुल स्क्रीन करके भी बड़ा नहीं हुआ. तो Mr. Jinnah is a bona fide liberal, etc. Such misleading formulations conflate lifestyle preferences with actual politics. It is well known that Jinnah became a regular presence at the Friday prayers at the Nal Bazar Mosque in Bombay, a noteworthy development that Ambedkar commented upon. Ambedkar ko dikhta tha ye. He gave up his suits for the sherwani, and the samur cap came in his public appearances, a sartorial statement not lost on his followers. He also no longer stayed aloof from the crowds. The cover photo of my book, that is Creating a New Medina, the cover photo of my book shows a traditionally clad Jinnah surrounded by young men sitting in their midst, engaging with them, performing like a regular subcontinental politician. He waded through crowds, sat on decorated trucks, and was taken on huge processions. A report by the OSS, the forerunner of the CIA, noted that during the 1942 All India Muslim League Allahabad session, his motorcycle passed under 110 gates, each named after an Islamic hero. Muslim League meetings usually began with recitations from the Quran, and its annual sessions included prayers in which Jinnah participated. Jinnah also increasingly invoked religious imagery, declaring that Muslim League had been bequeathed, that is given the responsibility. Muslim League had been bequeathed to Muslims by their Prophet. To take just one example, his pan-Islamic sympathies, that is the International Muslim Brotherhood aspect, pan-Islamic sympathies were fully evident during the Pakistan movement through his public speeches and press statements. Z.A. Suleri's reminiscence of Jinnah's pan-Islamic remarks at Iqbal's grave, Allama Iqbal, the poet, Allama Iqbal's grave, underlines this fact of the Qaid meaning Qaid-e-Azam Jinnah, as also his statement during his trip to the Middle East, in which he noted that Pakistan was the shield that would guard the Middle East. So Jinnah liberal है, वो argument refute कर रहे हैं अभी धुलीपाला. Jinnah said that Pakistan would be the guard that would Pakistan would be the protection for Middle East. It would guard Middle East from Hindu imperialism. Hindu imperialism कहाँ से निकाला जिन्ना? देखो भाई क्या बोल रहा है. Hindu imperialism. Devji would say that he was trying to stop the disaster too. Yeah. Hi. Mazhab नाम का कोई आया है. Hi. Devji made Jinnah his devta. Jinnah ji. Hindu imperialism. This is a fun concept. This pan-Islamism was not about escaping the crisis of the nation state, as Devji would have it, but about fashioning a new political form for a rejuvenated and reunited ummah led by a new vanguard in the brave new world of the 20th century. Finally, the image of Jinnah as an Indian nationalist to the very end, as if he was an Indian nationalist to the very end. एक समय में था, इसलिए अभी पूरा जिंदगी उसको Indian nationalist ही रहना है. Finally, the image of Jinnah as an Indian nationalist to the very end, as also his liberal democratic constitutionalist credentials, are too frayed to require any extended comment. The so-called sole spokesman of the Indian Muslims had no time for any dissenting views within his own party, as evident from the confessions of his subordinates that were recorded in the OSS report, OSS meaning the predecessor to CIA, in the OSS report that I quote in my book. That Jinnah instituted the viceregal system of power in Pakistan is not news either. I can't read this. अरे माउस के तरफ हाथ जा रहा है, रुको एक समय. What's this word? He peremptorily नया वर्ड सीखा आज. He peremptorily dismissed elected governments in northwest frontier province, that is Afghanistan, and the Punjab, while in East Pakistan, he declared Urdu to be the sole national language, inflaming Bengali sentiments, which led to the 1971 war. This is not to mention Jinnah's stereotyping of Gandhi as the baniya. अरे अभय देखो एक और बनिया आ गया. Gandhi as the baniya, using it as a term of opprobrium and abuse, similar to the use of the term Jew by the Nazis to connote a congenitally devious, scheming, lying, despicable or untrustworthy people. So baniya became a gali. I didn't know this. We have already alluded to Devji's claims regarding Jinnah's sacrifices for India's sake. To this must be added his claim that Churchill saw the Soviet Union as a model for a post-British order in the subcontinent. Absolving Churchill, that is forgiving Churchill of any interest in prolonging the empire, is a trailblazer in partition historiography. It remains to be seen how... So yeah, this is very important because this brings into context why India, that is Bharat. J.S. Deepak's first book, why that's important. This is why. Because partition historiography mein, usually people claim that Churchill had no interest in prolonging the empire. Independence हो गया तब से ही ब्रिटिश एकदम अपने आप में खुश थे, which is not the case. Coloniality went on and actively went on. They actively pursued it to push colonial models of thinking and institutions, NGOs, etc. All of that, and they have been going on today. So absolving Churchill of any interest in prolonging the empire is a trailblazer, is a pioneering thought in partition historiography. It remains to be seen how many will follow on this path in which British imperialism disappears as a factor in the partition and birth of Pakistan. Devji's attempt to place the Congress and the Muslim League on an equal footing is invidious. देखते हैं क्या क्या comment आया. Faisal Devji is suggesting an interview that, quote, if you are now doing research on Faisal Devji, if one wants a reference point for Al-Qaeda, some other movement that channelizes the same impulses for similar reason, look no further than environmentalism. Okay, I have been a vegan for a long time. I eat some eggs now, once in a while. I don't eat meat, dairy, etc. But I, as a vegan, have been called equal to Laden and Al-Qaeda, Taliban, etc. by other leftists. Nihilist trader, is Faisal Devji Pakistani? I have seen him on many left-wing Pakistani. Oh, you all know Faisal Devji? I have never heard of him. Yesterday, Nihilist trader said that he is from India only. Hindu imperialism. अब ये किस बला का नाम है? चलो हिंदू imperialism के बारे में पढ़ते हैं. तो कहाँ गया? Devji's claims to this. Devji's attempt to place the Congress and the Muslim League on an equal footing is invidious. Quoting the writer Patrick Lacey, Devji insinuates that the Congress was a fascist party and that British appeasement of the Congress was akin to appeasement of the Nazis. In this context, his claim that the Muslim League was a non-sectarian. Okay, ये चुतियापा हमने कल भी सुना था. Devji claims that Muslim League was a non-sectarian organization seemingly akin to the Congress is bogus, since its organizational membership was open only to Muslims. क्या लिखता है? Even after the creation, ये पेज टर्निंग में थोड़ा टाइम लगता है JSTOR में, ठीक है? Even after the creation, Devji Ambedkar and Pakistan, ये कहाँ से आ गया? I think the page is... Oh lol, I was supposed to put it up. Even after the creation, bogus, since its organizational membership was open only to Muslims. Even after the creation of Pakistan, Jinnah refused to open its doors to non-Muslims. As he said, now we are quoting Jinnah here, time has not come for a national organization of that kind. Public opinion in Pakistan is not yet ready for it. We must not be dazzled by democratic slogans that have no foundation in reality. Democratic slogans that have no foundation in reality. In the end, Devji's alternative history of the Muslim nationalism, with prominent roles for Shias and Western Indian Muslim merchants, diminished roles for UP men, and near total erasure of Punjabis such as Sir Fazle Hassan, is to put it mildly unconvincing. He's now being polite. Dhulipala is being polite and saying that it's just unconvincing whatever Devji has written. Yesterday's part, what we were reading in the first half, that was way more harsh. He was saying that Devji's article is wishful thinking, wishful fantasy, something like that. He said. Okay, Ambedkar and Pakistan. This is a sub-chapter. Okay, this is where it's going to get fun, guys, now. So, they are obviously going to discuss Pakistan or partition of India, whose, ye zoom ka hai nahi hota, whose excerpts, I think we all have read in countless numbers in Sanjay Dikshit's book Unbreaking India. In India, that is Bharat, India, Bharat, Pakistan. Ambedkar is the genius of diagnosing this problem. Is he Parsi or Muslim? Probably Bohra. I thought Parsi. Which have? Okay. Muslim League is non-sectarian. Indian born in Dar es Salaam city of Tanzania. Acha. Dar es Salaam is in Brunei, no? Which have 70% Muslim population. I thought Dar es Salaam is in Brunei. Parsi or Muslim. आप लोग decide करो. अभी आम्बेडकर को लाते हैं. Devji takes exception to my highlighting Ambedkar's sharp criticisms of Muslim nationalism in his seminal Thoughts on Pakistan book, and for showing how he saw Pakistan as a good riddance for Hindu India. Acha hua, jao bhago. He accuses me of making Ambedkar's text speak for itself by evacuating the context within which his writings should be understood. He is especially riled, matlab gussa aa gaya usko. He is especially riled by my observation that Ambedkar's writings reflected his truly held beliefs, because Ambedkar's thoughts evolved. That is why he later on agreed to make Sanskrit the national language of India, official language of India, which he was opposed to before. Even and people leftists ignored this and say everything done by Hindus is Sanskritization and Sanskrit is bad. But Ambedkar changed his mind, seeing the Hindu society in front of his face and the other societies in front of his face. He is specially riled by my observation that Ambedkar's writings reflected his truly held beliefs. Devji instead locates the so-called hyperbolic statements within Ambedkar's political rhetoric in the context of the untouchable leader's narrow political interests. Okay, the untouchable leader had narrow political interests. Now Ambedkar has narrow political interests, guys. We are finding new stuff from Devji every day, where they were arguably meant to frighten upper castes in turning to Dalits for support. Aiming for a knockout blow, he asks, how then are we, this is Devji saying, how then are we to account for his good relations with Jinnah, whose statement that Ambedkar wanted Dalits to replace Muslims as the favoured subjects of quotas in partitioned India is passed over in silence, or the support Ambedkar enjoyed from the Muslim League before and after his book was published. To emphasize these so-called good relations, he adds, Dhulipala doesn't mention this, just as he doesn't tell us when describing with horror the day of deliverance Jinnah declared to celebrate Congress's resignation of government in 1939, that both Ambedkar and Savarkar joined the festivities. Now Dhulipala's counter to this. It is comical to see Devji cry out for some context given his own cavalier attitude towards context and facts in his own book. Oh my god, now Dhulipala is bringing out the guns. Giga Chad mode. Contrary to his observations, Creating a New Medina, the 2015 book, reads and interprets Ambedkar's writings in the intellectual and political context of the 1940s. It presents the book Thoughts on Pakistan, which later on got expanded and got the name Pakistan or Partition of India, by the name which we know it. It was earlier called Thoughts on Pakistan. It presents Thoughts on Pakistan as an attempt by an acute political thinker at providing intellectual clarity on the vexed issue of Pakistan. Ambedkar was the first to clarify Ambedkar was the first to clearly define the problem. Yeah, I was calling Dhulipala a pioneer, but actually Ambedkar is the pioneer of basically diagnosing what the disease was. Ambedkar was the first to clearly define the problem, explain the issues at stake, delineate its implications, and express his own views on the matter. For Devji to suggest that Ambedkar did not really mean what he wrote in this tract and that his writings on Muslims and Pakistan were a mere feint and misleading and grossly reductionist. In doing so, he stops Ambedkar of all idealism, reducing his intellection to a so-called fishes and loaves of office matrix, and debases his politics to what historian Tapan Raychaudhuri once termed in another context animal politics. What Tapan Raychaudhuri called Ambedkar's book Animal Politics? अजीब लोगों से भरा है दुनिया. And debases his politics to what the historian Tapan Raychaudhuri once termed as in another context animal politics. Okay, वो कुछ अलग context होगा. Devji also seems blissfully unaware of the double standards he maintains while decoding political figures. When it comes to Jinnah, Devji elevates his... Okay, I should have given Faisal Devji in the thumbnail and in the YouTube title. Now I'm realizing this is entirely refuting Devji. When it comes to Jinnah, Devji elevates his thoughts, words and deeds to the level of high principle. Jinnah के बारे में बात कर रहा है तब बहुत बढ़िया कुछ बोल रहा है. जिन्ना एकदम भगवान बन गया उसके लिए. अच्छा, actually this is a 58 page paper. So we are just about 15 pages. So maybe he will refute other people who have criticized as well. It might not be entirely about Devji. When it comes to Jinnah, Devji elevates his thoughts, words and deeds to the level of high principle and pure reason, loftily dismissing all attempts to connect them to any political interest as a crude reduction. When it comes to Jinnah, there is no political interest. Political interest and reduction leading to Jinnah's thinking to conspiratorial politics. Yes, because Devji was saying yesterday that Jinnah didn't even want Pakistan, and this was his secret strategy. Making just demanding Pakistan was a secret strategy to make it to help negotiate better deals for Muslims. Actually, he didn't even want Pakistan, and it's a secret mission he had in his mind. He never told it to anyone. Only Faisal Devji guessed it. That was his argument yesterday. Jinnah's thinking to conspiratorial politics. In doing so, he often completely decontextualizes Jinnah's own speeches, writings and statements to come up with bizarre formulations. But when it comes to Ambedkar, Devji has no compunction about diminishing him to a grubby bargainer in the circus of politics. Ambedkar ko diminish kar diya. Let's check some comments. Sanskrit should be the official language of India. Hindi walas ruin it. Yes, and I don't actually have see, the problem with Hindi today is the way Hindi is spoken. Hindi is 60-70% Urdu. संजय दीक्षित जैसा हिंदी बोलता है, वो हिंदी से मुझे प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. If it becomes a national language, then I have a problem, because it's not spoken by a lot of people. But Sanskrit can be made a national language, and then the next generation can learn it as a first language. Have you heard Dhulipala's interview on Brown Pandit's podcast? नहीं तो. I never knew he came on this podcast. I all the videos I found of him were of very low video quality, low audio quality. I thought it's all useless. Jinnah Bhakt Devji to antaryami nikle. Okay. The second context in which Ambedkar's Thoughts on Pakistan book must be understood is indeed the political one. As a mature politician, patriot and statesman, Ambedkar had serious concerns about India's future in the context of the Pakistan demand, as also the politics unleashed by the Muslim League in pursuit of this goal. He was particularly seized by the question of India's defense, and in this regard expressed grave misgivings over Muslim domination of the Indian army. Yeah, Ambedkar was saying that since there are 34% Muslims in the Indian army, are Hindus going to be safe with this army? This regard expressed grave misgivings over Muslim domination of the Indian army, and more importantly, the loyalty of that army to the government in a free India. Yeah, this is what Ambedkar has said, and the same passages has been quoted by Deepak in India, that is Bharat, and Sanjay Dikshit in Unbreaking India. I've read it so many times, I almost know it by heart. He was saying that how far is the Hindu safe when British leave, uske baad kya hoga Hindu ka? And he was always talking about Hindu safety, Hindu unity. How can people conflate annihilation of caste with annihilation of Hinduism? I still haven't understood. Would this army... Yeah, see, check this line. This is the same excerpt that has been used in Unbreaking India and India, that is Bharat. Ambedkar therefore asked the question, How would Muslims in the Indian army react to invasion by a Muslim neighbor like Afghanistan? Would the Muslims in the Indian army even be loyal to the Indian government? That was Ambedkar's query, which obviously Indian army has proven him wrong mostly, but Ambedkar was proven right in 1947, very just 1 year after this book came out. He was proven right by the Kashmir Maharaja's army. There, all Muslims betrayed all Hindu soldiers. They sided with Pakistan, cut off the throats of gigantic numbers of Indian soldiers, Hindu soldiers, especially Gurkha soldiers, and then threw their body, tied their hands up, tortured, then threw their body in the river, in the cold Kashmir rivers, in the middle of the night. How would Muslims in the Indian army react to invasion by a Muslim neighbor like Afghanistan? Would this army fight in case India decided to invade Afghanistan for the sake of its own national interests? Ambedkar's own blunt answer was that the Muslims, especially those from Punjab and Northwest Frontier Province, would rather join their Afghan Muslim brethren than defend India, and would almost certainly disobey orders if India were to ever decide on invading Afghanistan. Even see, one thing you can notice is that Ambedkar brings up the idea that India might invade. We as kids who have grown up in 90s, we as 90s kids can't even imagine this, right? So I think there was a trait of India ever someday claiming back the Akhand Bharat regions. I think people back then still believe that it is a possibility. We haven't grown up knowing about this possibility. So I heard the word Akhand Bharat, I think, in 2015 for the first time. So see, this is pretty interesting that Ambedkar is bringing about this possibility. Invading Afghanistan. Ambedkar therefore wanted Hindus to carefully decide whether it was in their interest to disallow Pakistan's creation, so that they could have a so-called safe border of their imagination, or to welcome its separation from India in order to have a safe army. या safe army चाहिए या safe border चाहिए. Safe army चाहिए तो सबको निकालो. That is Ambedkar's idea. Let's check some comments. Have you seen Ajit Bharti's videos? It will make you realize the beauty of Hindi language. Yeah, I follow Ajit Bharti a lot. Only recently I haven't been able to, because I'm too busy now. That's why I'm doing everything in the middle of the night, live streams after 12. So I follow Sanjay Dixit and Ajit Bharti for their Hindi mainly, but अभी Sanjay Dixit भी ज़्यादा देख नहीं पा रहा हूँ. But I never miss an episode when who's that? Vijay Sardana, right? That when that man comes in, he's a pure economics genius that we have in the country today. He's basically everything I want from Indian economy. His thoughts align with mine hugely, and he understands free market economics. He's like the Indian Thomas Sowell. I never miss an episode of Vijay Sardana when it comes to Jaipur dialogues. The second context in which Ambedkar's thoughts on Pakistan must be understood is indeed the political one. As a mature politician, patriot, and ये सब तो हो गया. अच्छा. Furthermore, the Hindus needed to consider whether it was better to have these Muslims, quote unquote, without and against, or if they should be within and against. तुमसे दूर रहे and against रहे ये better है कि तुम्हारे साथ रहे and against and तुम्हारे against रहे ये better है. Nice way of thinking. कोई फायदा नहीं अभी. For Ambedkar, the answer was clear as daylight. दूर भेजो and then let them be against. As he noted, the answer was clear as daylight. The best option was to concede Pakistan. As he noted, quote unquote, indeed, it is a consummation devoutly to be wished that the Muslims should be without. That is the only way of getting rid of the Muslim predominance in the Indian army. Have you ever heard in this book or in these contexts Ambedkar talking about Dalit safety? That is my entire point, that his mind had changed. He was talking about Hindu safety. Where is he ever saying that Dalits are great friends with Muslims? That is the only way of getting rid of the Muslim predominance in the Indian army. Once Pakistan was created, Hindustan would be free to build its own army, quote unquote, with nobody dictating the question of how and against whom it should be used or not used. Why can't I scroll it up? Furthermore, the Hindus need to. एक मिनट. आज टेक्निकल प्रॉब्लम्स ख़त्म ही नहीं हो रहा है. स्क्रॉल बटन कहाँ गया? हुआ फाइनली. तो India Hindus need an army with nobody dictating the question of how and against whom it should be used or not used. He therefore concluded that, quote unquote, the defense of Hindustan, far from being weakened by the creation of Pakistan, will be infinitely improved by it. Defense of India will be improved if Pakistan happens and all Muslims are sent there. Look at what he's saying. He always remember this in the context that he wanted full population exchange. Population exchange करने से क्या होगा? Creation of Pakistan will improve the defense of Hindustan. So sending Muslims out of the country will cause the defense of Hindustan to improve. This is Ambedkar's statement. Ambedkar repeated this concern in the second edition of his treatise, which he titled Pakistan or the Partition of India. That is the updated edition of this book, Thoughts on Pakistan. What was equally disturbing for Ambedkar, see, I love pioneers of any thought processes, okay. Ambedkar is the pioneer of realizing that partition हो रहा है, अलग देश मांग रहा है, दे दो, अच्छा है, भगाओ इनको देश से. In another thing, Sri Aurobindo was a pioneer, that is realizing that खिलाफत movement के साथ ये दोस्ती ठीक नहीं है. Khilafat is going to come back to bite Hindus in the ass. Sri Aurobindo realized it the first. Even Bal Gangadhar Tilak was in favor of Khilafat. So no one realized that this is going to be a mistake. Congress moderates, so no one realized. Sri Aurobindo realized. What was equally disturbing for Ambedkar was the Muslim League's brand of politics, or what he termed Muslim communal aggression. It included the ever-growing catalogue of political demands, such as the this Ambedkar calls it gangsters' method of politics. उसका कंप्लेनिंग रोना धोना बंद ही नहीं होता है. It included the ever-growing catalogue of political demands, such as the quote-unquote extravagant and the demands were extravagant and impossible, if not irresponsible, Muslim demands for a 50% share in everything. This is how feminists argue today, right? Unless it's 50% in everything, every aspect, then there is something mysterious oppression going on. That is how they argue in everything. Unless it's 50%, but 50% based on either race, caste or gender. उसके अलग भी जो categories होते हैं इंसान का, वो they don't take it into account. I can categorize you into many different kinds. Okay, 50% of only red t-shirt wearing and blue t-shirt wearing. Or 50% of people who have divorced parents or not divorced parents. Okay, 50% of people with a single mother or a single father. There are so many ways to categorize people. कहाँ 50% categorize में सबको नौकरी देते फिरोगे and सबको election में reservation देते फिरोगे. So that categorization is a problem in itself, because it will always lead to artificial disadvantages for people who have not done anything wrong. 50% share in everything. The Muslims wanted to reduce Hindus from a majority in India to a minority in real terms, while at the same time, quote-unquote, cutting into the political rights of the other minorities. This is very important. Other minorities का तो सत्यानाश करके रखा है. He therefore had no hesitation in stating that, quote, the Muslims are now speaking the language of Hitler and claiming a place in the sun which Hitler has been claiming for Germany. For their demand for 50% is nothing but a counterpart of the German claims to Deutschland über alles and Lebensraum. Yeah, Lebensraum to, have you guys heard J.S. Deepak's famous speech from about 2017 or 18 on CAA and NRC? That's where I first heard of this concept, that one British, I think British or old, very old Indian bureaucrat, after retiring, wrote a book called Lebensraum. Lebensraum was a Nazi party program. He used this word to describe what Muslim immigration is doing to Assam, Bangladesh, Assam and West Bengal. He's saying that it's the same line of thought that's going on here. So this is that Lebensraum. Lebensraum for themselves, irrespective of what happens to other minorities. Let's read some comments now. Like the video, folks. Travia. Yes. Do read Arun Shori's book on Ambedkar, worshipping false gods. Yeah. अभी अरुण शोरी पढ़ नहीं पाया, बहुत दिन से प्लान है. Have you seen? We grew up being told that India and Hindus only lost. Yeah. Only Jagannath Mandal believed in the Dalit Muslim unity, not this. Jogendranath Mandal, not Jagannath Mandal. Watch Nityanand Mishra video on Arabi, Farsi, Mukht Hindi. Okay. He makes some great arguments. For example, Sanskritnisht Hindi will be well understood. Exactly. This is what I've been telling my friends based on... I thought I came up with this observation. But the only reason... I think I had discussed this in a live stream. You all have heard how horrible Hindi Bengalis usually speak, right? And that's what Bollywood portrays it even more, that Bengalis can't speak any Hindi. But Bengalis gave up Hindi. Bengalis never found any interest in Hindi, is because how Arabic it is. If it was just Sanskrit based, everyone would understand it. Everything that Sanjay Dixit pronounces is is 80% Bengali with a different pronunciation. That's all. Ko hum a bolenge Bengali mein. That's the only difference. And I have heard just one interview of Nityanand Mishra, that too with Sanjay Dixit only, where he was discussing that 2500-old Panini problem being solved. He was doing his sort of video peer review, that see, these are the problems and these are the things that guy has got right. I just watched that and I showed it to my girlfriend. I showed it to my aunt, who is a Sanskrit master herself. She teaches Sanskrit tuitions. All of them, I showed that, look at how this guy is speaking. It's so beautiful. Why can't we all speak like this, at least in our mother tongue or Hindi, whatever? I just got floored listening to the interview of Nityanand Mishra. Sanjay Dixit is Bengali? No. I meant that Sanjay Dixit speaks Hindi in a way which would be understood by almost all Bengalis, because whatever words he uses are 80% Bengali, because they are all from Sanskrit. There's 70 to 80% overlap between all Indian languages if those languages are devoid of Arabic inspirations. Sanjay Dixit is UP wala. Yes, UP wala, and then now lives in Rajasthan because of his work. Similarly, Ambedkar termed the demand for making Urdu India's national language equally extravagant. Okay, Muslim League demanded this. What? I never knew this. कितना अजीब आदमी लोग है ये, उर्दू को नेशनल लैंग्वेज बनाएगा. ओके, इसलिए उर्दू नेशनल लैंग्वेज तो नहीं बना, हिंदी नेशनल लैंग्वेज बन रहा है ऑलमोस्ट, which is basically Urdu. And remember, I have to discuss his 2010 paper, Venkat Dhulipala's 2010 paper. I have it in my computer. So there he quotes Muslim Congress people, moderates, who are saying that Hindi is being pushed so that Hindu-Muslim unity is propagated, so that the nation gets a message that Hindus and Muslims are united. That's why Hindi was originally pushed by the Congress party. Now the BJP is getting accused by Bengalis and Bangla Pokho, etc. for being imposing Hindi. BJP has never actually actively imposed Hindi, although you could say that they are kind of imposing Hindi by holding these Hindi celebration day or some things. But I hope it doesn't work, because it's too much Arabic there. But it was started with Congress. Congress actively... They deliberately wanted Hindi to become the national language. They didn't announce it, but took every step in that direction. Because Hindi, according to Congress, was the amalgamation of Hindu and Muslim brotherhood. So it was equally extravagant. He objected to the language of 28 million Muslims being imposed on 322 million Indians. What he found even more alarming, Ambedkar, was that Muslim demands were compounded not just by an increasing British inability to resist them, but by their willingness to grant Muslims even more than what they themselves had demanded. He alluded particularly to the example of the communal award. ये communal award, this has been discussed extensively by Sanjay Dikshit and in India, Bharat, Pakistan as well. I hope you guys read those books. Sanjay Dikshit's book is very small and very easy to read. Sanjay Dikshit is the most lucid writer I have read in my life. Example of communal award. Communal award, I hope you guys know what it was, that only Muslims could vote for Muslim candidates. And in Hindu regions, Muslims could stand, and so some Hindus would go around voting for Muslims, but in Muslim regions, only Muslims could vote. And regardless of whether they were in the majority or minority, that was the communal award. It was insane, absolutely. As Ambedkar noted, when Muslims demanded that they granted either one of the two options, that is, statutory majorities with joint electorates or a minority of seats with separate electorates. So, statutory majority meaning that majority जो है वो decided हो गया है, उसमें joint electorates होगा या minority seats होगा with separate electorates. The British took statutory majority from the first demand and separate electorates from the second and gave them both. Muslims asked for A or B, British gave them both. The second feature of, this is one thing that J.S.I. Deepak has pointed out in India, Bharat, Pakistan, that what was British's reason for helping Muslims, the so-called dividing Hindus and Muslims, the divide and rule option. There was a bit of that, obviously, and different British people wanted different things. Some British people wanted Indian unity. Some British people had mostly Muslim friends, Muslim intellectual friends. Some British people had mostly Hindu intellectual friends. So British people had different opinions, even in the bureaucracy. But one thing British had to note was that the number of Muslims all over the world, those Muslim countries, some of them were important allies of British, some of them were opposed to the British. They had to keep those dynamics in mind as well. So that's why they were giving into a lot of Muslim demands here in India, because the Muslims identify with all the Muslims all over the world and gave them both. The second feature of Muslim aggression, Ambedkar elucidated, lay in their desire to exploit Hindu weakness. ये तो कभी नहीं जाएगा. He noted that whenever Hindus objected to anything, Muslim policy was to concede the point only if they received some additional concessions in return. Ambedkar saw a prominent insistence of this so-called spirit of exploitation in Muslim insistence on cow slaughter and stoppage of music before mosques. Islamic law did not recommend cow sacrifice, nor did Muslims who went on Hajj to Mecca usually slaughter a cow. But in India, they insisted on sacrificing the cow and would not be content with sacrificing any other animal. Cow ko hi sacrifice karna hai because it's a Hindu god. As regards music before mosques, Ambedkar again argued that it was not an issue in any Muslim country. In particular, he gave the example of Afghanistan, hardly a secularized Muslim country, which still allowed music before mosques. However, within India, Muslims insisted on music being stopped before mosques just because Hindus claim it as a right. and then in Durga Puja 2019, a Bengali Durga Puja pandal played the azan inside the pandal. Gangster methods of politics, yes, what I said. However, within India, Muslims insist stop just because Hindus claim it as a right. The third feature that Ambedkar elaborated upon in this regard was what he termed Muslim gangster methods in politics. He saw them as consciously imitating Sudeten Germans in their tactics against the Czechs. Yesterday we talked about Sudeten Germans. Ambedkar therefore warned that a policy of appeasement and concession would only exacerbate Muslim aggressiveness because they would interpret it as a sign of Hindu defeatism. This is Ambedkar saying this in 47 or 46. Sri Aurobindo realized this back in 1920s. The Hindus could thus find themselves in the same fearful situation that the Allies found themselves in, that the Allied powers found themselves in as a result of their appeasement policy towards Hitler. The only remedy to put an end to the limitless Muslim political appetite, Ambedkar concluded, was to arrive at a settlement and, quote, if Pakistan is a settlement, then as a remedy, it is worth consideration. Because by Pakistan, he meant sabko bhejo wahan pe. He did not mean what was ultimately done. Let me drink some water. Now let's check some comments. अच्छा अभी अभी मेरा यूट्यूब प्रीमियम भी ख़त्म हो गया, सब एक साथ हो रहा है आज. हिंदी स्पोकन इन वेट, बहुत कमेंट आ गया, अच्छा है, थैंक्स गाइज. You guys are the most supportive supporters of a YouTube channel I think I've ever seen. Bengalis did a great job keeping their language largely Arabi Farsi free. Um, yeah, largely free, not entirely free. But you should listen to Bangladeshi Bangla. That's almost unrecognizable. And the Kolkata's Bangla Pride movement called Bangla Pakho, they support those kinds of Bengalis as well. Bangladeshi Muslim Bengalis who are distorting Bangla language every day. These people support those guys. That is absolutely insane. Hindi spoken in UP and Bihar is pretty close to Bengali in terms of vocabulary. Yes, especially UP. I have not seen Bihari Hindi professors. They speak the kind of Hindi that I'm talking about. Sanjay Dixit's kind of Hindi, obviously. But in UP, even the middle class, even not the Hindi professors, even they speak the kind of Hindi that is understood by every Bengali. Like Yogi Adityanath's Hindi. That's like 0% of Arabic words. So Ambedkar was an anti-Hindu, niche, nirlaj insan. Well, he was anti-Hindu only until 1935. Okay, he was not anti-Hindu in 1946 because his entire book is about Hindu safety, Hindu safety, Hindu safety. In Annihilation of Christ, in Annihilation of Caste, he starts the speech with Hindu unity, ends the book with Hindu unity. He says, why are you guys so disunited? Look at the others. Caste fast band karo, unite ho jao. And he was pissed off with obviously Hinduism because obviously he faced casteism. So that the book Defeating Casteism or Manusmriti, those are not entirely you don't need to take them seriously because he has said that he has not read most Indic texts in Sanskrit. And so he has mainly read Satyarth Prakash. Not only Muslim League, Gandhi and Nehru also wanted Urdu under the guise of Hindustani language as national language. Yeah. Link to that paper. नीलिस ट्रेडर, ये वो 2010 पेपर का लिंक नहीं है, वो मैंने डाउनलोड कर लिया है सिंस माई गर्लफ्रेंड इज़ डूइंग PhD इन सोशोलॉजी. तो उसकी इंस्टीट्यूशन के लाइब्रेरी में ये था, तो उस तरह से मिला है. जे स्टोर में शायद होगा, या होना तो चाहिए. जे स्टोर में 2010 का पेपर देख लो. आई थिंक इट्स कॉल्ड, रुको अभी दिखा देते हैं तुमको. Venkat Dhulipala 2010 paper. He has quoted that guy multiple times. This paper, okay, Rallying the Qawm, the Muslim League in the United Provinces, 1937-39. This is the paper. So the entire point of this paper is that how Muslim League was almost on the verge of breaking up. It's a very interesting research. Shia Sunni divisions were so high that Muslim League was not finding any takers. Their whatever their opinions were. And there this guy says that Hindi was being pushed by Congress. Okay, let's read some more comments. I heard somewhere that Harivansh Rai Bachchan had written a speech in proper Hindi, but Nehru saw it against Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb and changed it. Abhay Agarwal, yes, it's only after Bollywood that Hindi got corrupted. That's not how grandparents spoke Hindi, right? It is our duty to be watchful and cleanse our vocabulary. Yes. Basic तो ये है, cleanse करना है भाषा को. Yes, I have started de-Urduizing and de-Anglicizing my spoken Hindi. Good. দাদা তুমি শঙ্কর সরঞ্জির বইগুলো পড়তে পারো, মনে হয় ভালো লাগবে. Okay, what is it about? What topic books does he write? Abhay Agarwal, yes, censorship came easy to Nehru. Even Gandhi resigned from Hindi Sabha because they wanted to cleanse Hindi of Arabi Farsi. Okay. Thing with Bollywood is it's dominated by Punjabis, and Punjabi language is literally 50-60% Farsi because Punjab was most invaded part of the country. You also have to remember that the Urdu language is essentially a Punjabi language. Probably because of that, Bollywood Hindi is fully Urduized. Yeah, much later. Punjabis romanticize Arabi Farsi over Sanskrit. वो तो उनका वो खालिस्तानी मूवमेंट्स में इतना इन्वेस्टमेंट है बाहर वालों का, कनाडा वालों का, इसलिए तो वो प्रॉब्लम चलेगा ही. I think time is coming when we need to be as careful about speaking against Khalistanis as much we do about Muslims now, because कनाडा वाले कहाँ से तलवार वलवार भेज देंगे मेरे घर पे. Okay, If Pakistan is a settlement, then as a remedy, it is worth consideration. Devji derides, so Devji criticizes the so-called repertoire of colonial scholarship. Okay, Devji hates colonial scholarship now. This is interesting. बहुत देर अम्बेडकर के जोन में घुस गया था, अभी अभी इस अजीब आदमी के जोन में वापस आना है. Derides the repertoire of colonial scholarship, which he suggests Ambedkar was Ambedkar was deploying only instrumentally in his treatise. But whether one likes it or not, Ambedkar seems to have had no problems in accepting the validity of this scholarship. He quoted at length colonial historians such as Stanley Lane Poole, as also their translations of medieval Muslim chroniclers such as Minhajus Siraj and others, to enumerate the violent methods adopted by Muslims in the process of their conquest over India. He believed that Hindus and Muslims therefore shared no historical antecedents as so-called matters of common joy or common sorrow. It's always his joy, mera sorrow, ya mera joy to uska sorrow. There are no matters of common joy or sorrow. This is a very important point. Common joy or sorrow से ही देश बनता है, ठीक है? And rather than constituting a unitary nation, see, another reason I like Ambedkar is, see, you can't agree or disagree with everyone and anyone, right? तो वो तो एक कंसेशन देना ही है अम्बेडकर को. बस अम्बेडकर टॉक्स एक्सटेंसिवली अबाउट हिंदू यूनिटी, हिंदू सेफ्टी, वो भी छोड़ दो. Ambedkar, in even Annihilation of Caste, he says something very important which is not spoken about by almost anyone else. Okay, हमने तो बचपन से सुना है कि लिबर्टी, इक्वलिटी, फ्रैटर्निटी, तो राइट सबको चाहिए, इक्वलिटी सबको चाहिए, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी के बारे में तो कोई बात नहीं करता है. बट आजकल लोग बोल रहे हैं कि हाँ, राइट्स तो हो गया, अब ड्यूटीज़ क्या है, ड्यूटीज़ के बारे में भी सोचो. बट अदर देन दैट, अम्बेडकर पॉइंट्स आउट, फ्रैटर्निटी कहाँ गया? सिर्फ लिबर्टी, इक्वलिटी बकते जा रहे हो. फ्रैटर्निटी कहाँ पे है? फ्रैटर्निटी कैसे होगा? कास्ट होगा तो व्हाट डज दैट मीन? ही मीन्स ब्रदरहुड अमंग हिंदूज, हिंदू यूनिटी. नो वन, आई हैव नेवर हर्ड एनीवन टॉक अबाउट फ्रैटर्निटी. मगर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में तो है लिबर्टी, इक्वलिटी, फ्रैटर्निटी. सबको सिर्फ इक्वलिटी चाहिए, और लिबर्टी तो किसी को चाहिए भी नहीं, क्योंकि फ्री स्पीच में ज़्यादा कोई बिलीव नहीं करता है. तो फ्रैटर्निटी was prioritized by Ambedkar in his most seminal work. I would say Dhulipala is saying this is his seminal work, but a lot of people think his Annihilation of Caste is his seminal work. तो वहाँ पे he talks about fraternity and not just equality. That is what you should understand. Leftists always think his talks of casteism is in the context of equality. No, his talks of his entire conversation on casteism is from the context of fraternity, brotherhood. Brotherhood किस में? हिंदुओं में. Colonial scholarship पसंद नहीं है. Ambedkar likes colonial scholarship. He believed that, okay, common sorrow, common joy. And rather than constituting a unitary nation in India sharing common history and culture, historically they were, quote, two armed battalions warring against one another, end quote. Ambedkar's historical sense stood in contrast to and repudiated Jawaharlal Nehru's view of Indian history in his book Glimpses of World History and Discovery of India, which emphasizes Hindu-Muslim synthesis exemplified by the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb. That Ambedkar was not merely using the so-called repertoire of colonial scholarship instrumentally, but accepted its validity is evident. The fact that Ambedkar liked that colonial scholarship is evident from his diagnosis regarding the collapse of Buddhism in India. He believed that while Hinduism had a role in the decline of Buddhism, it was Islam that struck the death blow as Muslim armies burnt the great Buddhist libraries at Nalanda and killed Buddhist scholars. Yes, सुनाओ कोई neo-Buddhist को. Ambedkar was clear that, quote, Islam destroyed Buddhism not only in India but wherever it went. ये quote तो मुझे पता ही नहीं था. ये फेंक के मारो सारे जय भीम के मुंह पे. One wonders what motive Devji would attribute to this statement by Ambedkar. I have to read some comments. Wow, that's great. Is she leftist? Yes, she's a Marxist. Marxist sociologist. But she's not married to those ideas. She's like, okay, I'm learning something new. I guess this is a new way to look at it. But we debate all the time. My arguments get better because everything I say here is first filtered out by discussing with her. গান্ধীর ব্রহ্মচর্য, শ্রী অরবিন্দর দর্শন, খিলাফত না খিলাফত, क्रिटिसिज्म ऑफ आरएसएस इत्यादि. या अरे भाई ये खालिस्तानी इस्लामिस्टों से भी चोमू है. कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे. Okay. Have you read Worshipping False Gods by Arun Shori? Yes, yes, someone just mentioned. If yes, please try to upload it like audiobook or read it in live stream. No, no. He is too big of an author, okay? ज़्यादा बड़े ऑथर और बड़े पब्लिशर्स का बुक ऐसे ऑडियो बुक में मैं खुद से डाल दे नहीं पाऊँगा, बिकॉज इट विल गेट टेकन डाउन ऑन कॉपीराइट वायलेशन नोटिस. तो आई कैन ओनली डिस्कस पेपर्स or thing, or we can do a paid book club kind of thing, or only legendary archaic texts like Manusmriti, Brahma Puran, etc., because they are so old. I don't think Penguin bothers about its copyright. They still have grounds to call it copyright violation, and I'll take them down if they ever send me a notice. But it's still a risk. But popular books में नहीं होगा. Arun Shori's books are still very popular. Okay. If Pakistan is a settlement, ये हो गया. Why do I keep forgetting कहाँ तक पढ़ा? Islam, yeah. So remember this quote. Islam destroyed Buddhism not only in India but wherever it went. This is Ambedkar's quote. The instrumental explanation that Devji again provides for Ambedkar's hyperbole in his writings on Muslims and Pakistan is that these were part of his attempt to frighten the upper castes and compel them to turn to the Dalits for support, or that it was a gambit to make the Dalits favored subjects of quotas in a partitioned India. These are again baseless speculations. The Congress was not as fearful of losing Dalit support as Devji would have us believe. It won 73 out of the 151 seats reserved for scheduled castes during the 1937 elections, in which Ambedkar's Independent Labour Party did well only in Bombay province, winning 11 of the 15 reserved seats. Ambedkar bitterly denounced the Pune Pact as the reason for Congress' success, because in these reserved seats, the Congress could easily control and crush non-Congress opponents because of the joint electorates of caste Hindus. And Dalits. In 1946, the Congress swept the elections, winning 142 of the 151 reserved seats across India, with Ambedkar's Scheduled Caste Federation winning only 2 seats. In a seminal essay, Shekhar Bandyopadhyay has argued that this sweep cannot simply be explained in terms of the provisions of the Pune Pact that enabled upper castes to push Congress Dalits past the finish line against the independent Dalit candidates. Rather, the Congress's spectacular success in the reserved seats for scheduled castes was due to an upsurge of nationalist sentiment across all sections of society. ये सुनाओ जय भीम वालों को. We need to assess Devji's claim that one should not take Ambedkar's writings on Muslims and Pakistan at face value, since A. he enjoyed so-called good relations with Jinnah, B. Ambedkar and Savarkar joined Jinnah to celebrate the Day of Deliverance, and C. the Muslim League supported Ambedkar politically before and after the publication of the book. To say that Ambedkar enjoyed so-called good relations with Jinnah, who kept almost every individual at arm's length, is quite fanciful. Ambedkar was appalled by and as impatient with Jinnah as he was with Gandhi. His book Ranade Gandhi Jinnah makes clear that he disliked them both. It would be difficult to find two persons, okay, this is a quote now. It would be difficult to find two persons who would rival them for their colossal egotism. दोनों का इतना बड़ा ईगो में कंपटीशन चल रहा है. They have made Indian politics a matter of personal feud. This is Ambedkar's quote on Jinnah and Gandhi. They have made Indian politics a matter of personal feud. कहाँ से देवजी उठा के? The presence of Savarkar and Ambedkar on the same platforms as Jinnah for the Day of Deliverance celebrations is surely revealing in itself. Jinnah himself was forthright in his portrayal of the relationship as an example of politics bringing strange bedfellows together. Such a politics of convenience would also explain the Hindu Mahasabhas joining the Fazlul Haq ministry in the 1940s. Yes, Fazlul Haq was the prime minister बोलते थे उस वक्त, basically chief minister of this undivided Bengal. So A.K. Fazlul Haq, he is known as Shere Bangla. I did a video on him and other people in my video Why Are Bengalis Secular. There while researching for that video, I found out that Fazlul Haq was the second prime minister, I guess, of Bengal. in 1940s, and he was supported by Shyama Prasad Mukherjee. And in fact, Fazlul Haq was an assistant to Ashutosh Mukherjee, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee's father. Ambedkar was an independent thinker who could be critical of both Congress and Muslim League politics, as also of Hindu and Muslim communities in their practices. Yeah. Ambedkar's views on the caste system and Hinduism are well known. The section of his book entitled Pakistan and the Malays shows that his views on Islam and Muslim social practices were equally scathing. Yes. Devji's attempt to discount these criticisms and insinuate so-called good relations between Ambedkar and Jinnah is part of an ideological attempt to create a friendly genealogy of this Dalit-Muslim relations to help inaugurate a politics of Dalit-Muslim unity. This is the thing that Devji... Okay, now I understand why Devji was doing this. Now the cat's out of the bag. Now the spoiler has come, okay? ये था इसका attempt. मुस्लिम दलित दोस्ती दिखाने के चक्कर में ये सब fantasy लिख दिया. The fact that Muslim society could treat Dalits in as vicious a manner as did caste Hindus in colonial India is brushed under the carpet, which is the entire topic of जोगेंद्रनाथ मंडोल्स रेजिग्नेशन लेटर. उसका मैंने ऑडियो बुक काइंड ऑफ ऑडियो बना के रखा है, पूरा ही पढ़ दिया. बहुत बड़ा रेजिग्नेशन लेटर है जोगेंद्रनाथ मंडोल का टुवर्ड्स द पाकिस्तानी ऑथोरिटीज़, सेइंग दैट सी आई एम योर लॉ मिनिस्टर, मुझे देश छोड़ के भागना पड़ रहा है इंडिया में, जहाँ मैं हिंदू ब्राह्मणिज्म पेट्रियर्की की ये सब बोल के आया था. यू गाइज हैव टू रीड दैट पेपर और जस्ट चेक आउट माई वीडियो ऑन दैट टॉपिक. I have 2 parts on that. तो कास्ट हिंदूज के तरह ही मुस्लिम्स भी ट्रीट करते थे दलितों को इन कॉलोनियल इंडिया, एंड दैट फैक्ट इज ब्रश्ड अंडर द कारपेट. Thus, after the birth of Pakistan, Dalits seeking to come to India were detained by Pakistani authorities under the provisions of the Essential Services Maintenance Act. This was stridently denounced by Ambedkar, who condemned Pakistan as also Hyderabad state for violence against Dalits. ये कहा अब ये किसी को दिखाओ, ये किसी को पता ही नहीं है अभी. State for violence against Dalits and attempts to convert them to Islam. And people think Ambedkar is the friend of these people. Neo-Buddhists, Neo-Ambedkarites have not read anything by Ambedkar after 1935, okay? Anything written by Ambedkar after 1935. This was stridently denounced by Ambedkar, who condemned Pakistan as also Hyderabad state for violence against Dalits and attempts to convert them to Islam. When Sri Prakasha, India's High Commissioner to Pakistan, asked Liaquat Ali Khan, okay, that was the Liaquat-Nehru Pact, I'll discuss it later, and asked Liaquat why these people were being barred from going to India to see their families. Liaquat responded, who would clean the streets and latrines of Karachi if they did not come back? See, this is Liaquat Ali Khan. This is the entire ethos of Muslim League and their supporters. This is why they treat Pasmandas until today in the same way. You all must have heard of Dr. Faiz Ahmed Faizi. He responds to Facebook messages and comment section as well. He's a very approachable guy. He has had countless interviews in Sanjay Dixit's podcast. I don't know why he is not bringing him back. But Faiz Ahmed Faizi has done these researches and keeps showing that Pasmandas, who are lower caste Hindus, are still treated like lower caste people and have the same jobs that lower caste people had before casteism started breaking down in India. But that breakdown of casteism and caste-based politics nahi, okay, oppression of Dalits, that started happening in India during the 1940s, Ambedkar के साथ, सावरकर के साथ, but that never happened in Islam. तो and this is why. साफ कौन करेगा? पेमेंट दे के साफ थोड़ी करा सकते हैं किसी को, पैसा तो तब भी नहीं था, अब भी नहीं है. तो इसलिए तो जिसका प्रोफेशन था, जिसके बाप दादा का बाथरूम साफ करने का प्रोफेशन था, उसी को बुलाना है, पैसा तो है नहीं. To Liaquat responded, who would clean the streets and latrines of Karachi if they did not come back? ये दिखाओ जय भीम वालों को, जय मीम वालों को. In this regard, it must be noted that even in the ulema discourse, the chamar is the most frequently mobilized category of derision, hatred के लिए. Those wistful about the lost opportunity of an ethnic alliance against the Congress in colonial India are now pitching for a Dalit Muslim alliance, which is still going on. But deliberate distortion of historical facts should not become the means of pushing a political agenda like the so-called Dalit Muslim Alliance. देखते हैं क्या क्या कमेंट आया है. D.N. Jha thinks Nalanda was destroyed by Brahmins. Koenraad elst have refuted these claims. Yeah, D.N. Jha तो जेसाई दीपक ने इसको डिबेट करने में बुलाया था. अभी कोई कभी तो आता नहीं है. व्हाट जेसाई दीपक वाज सेइंग इज जे अच्छा सुन लिया हिंदू ने बुद्धिस्ट को ये किया वो किया. इवन संजय दीक्षित सेज द सेम थिंग दैट अच्छा ठीक है सुना, कोर्ट में जाओ. हम कोई थोड़ी घर में बैठ के बोल रहे हैं, हम तो जो कुछ भी बोल रहे हैं कोर्ट में जाके बोल रहे हैं. And we are going on with the legal procedures. That's how these things are going on. Ram Janmabhoomi, Ganvyapi, Krishna Janmabhoomi, everything. तो कोर्ट में जाने से तुमको कौन रोक रहा है? जब वो आता है, वो कोई कोर्ट केस का हियरिंग होता है, तब अचानक ये डी.एन. झा वाले, रोमिला थापर जैसे लोग बोलने लगते हैं कि नहीं नहीं हिंदूज ने भी तो बुद्धिस्ट कुछ जगह तोड़ा था. संजय दीक्षित goes on to say that yes, very good, go to court and prove it. We'll use that as legal precedents to prove more Hindu temples were destroyed by Islamic invaders. We'll use that law. कुछ करो, अच्छा है. Can't you say chapter sum up? या उसके लिए तो मुझे बहुत डिटेल में पढ़ना होगा. जैसे आई एम डूइंग चैप्टर सम अप ऑफ इंडिया भारत पाकिस्तान, तो उसमें टाइम लगेगा. कभी ना कभी तो पढ़ूंगा. It's better you make your research, write a script and shoot it while quoting source. You will attract more audience that way. Yeah. D.N. Jha is the type of guy who will say that Godra was a mass suicide. Illustrator. If it was not for Nehruvian India, people like D.N. Jha would be considered loonies in any other countries. I see. Does he have any kind of educational qualifications? Not that that's the only thing that matters, but कुछ क्वालिफिकेशन है क्या D.N. Jha का? अगर क्वालिफिकेशन है और फिर भी ऐसा बोलता है तब तो it's more important. Were you a hardcore leftist when you met your girlfriend? She's my friend from class 8. So I was a hardcore leftist back then and she was a hardcore Trinamool supporter and hated Marxists because we were just stupid kids in class 8. Now she's a Marxist and I'm not. If so, what was your girlfriend's reaction when you started to change your thinking? She's not married to her ideas. I am married to my ideas. But debate तो है. Debate में ही सब अच्छा है. Debate से ही अच्छा चीज़ें निकलता है. Sanatan Samiksha channel is the best in demolishing neo-Buddhist propaganda. Yes, I started following their channel. They were yesterday asking for support a lot. D.N. Jha is dead. अच्छा, तो कहाँ से PhD कुछ किया है क्या D.N. Jha ने? Thus, after the birth of Pakistan, but deliberate distortion of historical facts should not. Okay. Ambedkar's views regarding Muslim nationalism and the Pakistan movement seem to have been genuinely held because at no point did he qualify or retract his writings. He wrote the book in 1946. He died in 1956. 10 साल में इस बुक में कुछ गलत लिखा है या ऐसा नहीं है, ऐसा कुछ कभी नहीं बोला अम्बेडकर ने. Let us attend to this startling paragraph in his Thoughts on Pakistan, Thoughts on Linguistic States, written in 1955, which makes a continuation of the ideas he expressed in Thoughts on Pakistan. नाम भी नहीं सुना इस बुक का. Ambedkar says, I was glad that India was separated from Pakistan. He's saying this 10 years after writing that book. I was the philosopher, so to say, of Pakistan. Ambedkar is saying this. I advocated partition because I felt that it was only by partition that Hindus would not only be independent but free. ये sentence देखो. All of you who just hate Ambedkar because of what he said about Hindu gods and casteism, remember that was written 20 years before he's saying this. So obviously his views had changed on Hindus. Can you notice it here? और casteism खराब है ये तो सबको पता है. casteism खराब क्यों है ये बोलने में उन्होंने बहुत harshly कुछ बोल दिया होगा, but that was 20 years before saying this. 55 में he's saying for Hindu safety, never Dalit safety, not in 46, not in 55. I advocated Pakistan, I advocated partition because I felt that it was only by partition that Hindus would not only be independent but free. If India and Pakistan had remained united in one state, Hindus, though independent, would have been at the mercy of Muslims. A merely independent India would not have been a free India from the point of view of the Hindus. It would have been a government of one country by two nations, and of the two, the Muslims without question would have been the ruling race, notwithstanding the Hindu Mahasabha and the Janasangh. When the partition took place, I felt that God was willing to lift his curse and let India be one great prosperous. Let India be one great and prosperous. 1955 का quote है ये. He was a very old historian. अच्छा. Ambedkar really wanted good for Hindus. Yeah, at least since 46. Annihilation of caste is annihilation of Hindus. I'll tell you why this impression has come about, because I have many friends in sociology. They all, from different institutions, all of them read a version of Annihilation of Caste which has a foreword by Arundhati Roy. Okay, coincidentally, the Annihilation of Caste gifted to me by a brother, that one does not have that foreword by Arundhati Roy. So I never knew of this aspect. मैंने खुद से अपना दिमाग लगा के पढ़ के देखा ये तो हिंदू यूनिटी का बात कर रहा है. Then I told my sociology friends that, Arey, I have heard you guys talk about this article and this speech for so many years. I thought it's going to be full of that Hindus are bad. Where is that? I have read about first 12-15 pages, and then I messaged her saying that kahan pe hai? It's all Hindus are so disunited. Unlike other religions, Hindus should be united. Hindu brotherhood, fraternity किसके बीच में होता है? Fraternity brothers के बीच में होता है. Fraternity थोड़ी enemies के साथ होता है. So he starts the speech with fraternity, then goes on to say Hindu unity. So she said that, read the entire thing. Later on, you will find out that he's basically asking for annihilation of Hinduism to call for annihilation of caste. Okay, I have not read the entire speech yet, because she said that read the entire thing. I checked out the last few paragraphs. Even there, he is calling for Hindu unity. So somewhere in the middle, maybe he has said that, but it's not evident from what the beginning context nor in the end context. I don't think he has used the sentence annihilation of Hindus. Then maybe he would name the book Annihilation of Hindus. I am sure he has not done that. All the problem that arises because of leftist academics thinking annihilation of caste is equal to annihilation of Hindus, that's because of, I think, the foreword written by Arundhati Roy based on her interpretation and reading of what this speech says by Ambedkar. And if you want to know how intelligent Arundhati Roy is, you just have to check out anything ever said by her. But most importantly, check out my live stream of reacting to Arundhati Roy's interview with Karan Thapar. I'm saying this to the new viewers. She said, we have done a 2-part video debunking her statements on Karan Thapar, but in that interview, it's so evident that she's stupid, because during the first half of the interview was Karan Thapar asking him soft, nice questions, she giving stupid, nice answers, me refuting them. Second half se, I had to just chill. I had to just sit back and relax, because Karan Thapar got fed up with her stupid answers. That interview is wild. You won't believe the twist that happens, because Karan Thapar can't take anymore the absolute baseless crap she goes on saying. Karan Thapar said, but that's not how this is. Like one example is, yes, but BJP still fights elections, loses elections, fascist kahan se ho gaya? Karan Thapar says this. And then in the end, Arundhati Roy gets pissed off with Karan Thapar. Karan Thapar pushes her back so much on her stupid arguments. That is how stupid Arundhati Roy is. That is how misinformed Arundhati Roy is. And that woman is writing a foreword for a gigantic intellectual like Ambedkar's speech. Okay. Arundhati Roy gets pissed off with Karan Thapar and says, oh, Karan, you are just being annoying for some reason or the other. In that tone, she says it. Hindutva believes annihilation of caste is not equivalent to annihilation of Hinduism. Yes. No, my girlfriend is not Hindu. She's atheist. I don't think his views changed about Hinduism though. He literally converted to Buddhism. Yes, but he didn't accept all aspects of Buddhism either. Remember. And I'll tell you. But if he left Hinduism, but talks about Hindu safety, how does that work? Or then we can conclude that he was, without saying it explicitly, he was admitting that Hindu safety will lead to the safety of Buddhists as well, and Dalits as well, Sikhs as well. At least that's what he was clear on. Because in 55 he is saying Hindus are safe, in 46 he is saying Hindus need safety, in Annihilation of Caste he is saying Hindus need brotherhood. So it's all Hindu, Hindu, Hindu. At least he stayed within the dharmic fold. Yeah, वो तो है, मगर Buddhists think they are out of the dharmic fold, so that's another problem. Can a case be made for caste and Hindutva going hand in hand? It has worked till now. How can caste and Hindutva go hand in hand? Because caste rigidity has to go immediately. Caste, birth-based caste system, obviously. Parakram Divya, elaborate on your point. Acha. Now let's continue with the article. Ambedkar still remained a political Hindu. Yeah, seems like it, at least from his writings. Okay, in 55 he writes this. He became a Buddhist in 56, I guess, and right before his death. Remember that. It's not like he was planning to be a big Buddhist leader or something. I think it was just a mere formality of some sort, and he has explained that what parts of Buddhism he likes and doesn't like. So that also needs to be remembered. But why then would he leave Hinduism? I think he still had some questions that casteism is maybe Hindu society is more accepting than other societies, but it's still not gone. And I just am making up my own kind of Buddhism because he did not accept all aspects of Buddhism either. So it could be said that he was just trying to make up his own version of Buddhism, and that's what he wanted to follow. But casteism, caste violence did not become like it did not get eliminated all of a sudden in 1955, right? So it's not like he was not seeing any casteism there. So even today it's not 100% gone. Legally it's gone. तो 100% जब जाएगा तब वो अगर देख लेते अम्बेडकर तो शायद वो नहीं छोड़ते हिंदुइज्म. Because remember when he is alive, even back then there are people like Karpatri Maharaj who L.K. Advani is saying, no, I need to stay away from this guy. He's so casteist. Ambedkar is kicking him out from Hindu Mahasabha. His descendants, his political descendants are creating the Ramrajya Parisang who are fighting elections against BJP. So these guys were still there, and Ambedkar maybe saw these people and thought that, okay, chalo bhagte hain yahan se. Yeah, his type of Buddhism is literally a political movement and not anything religious, right? Ambedkar's statement. Well, his definition of Hindu is remarkable. Would be the case if... okay. He called his conversion changing room in a house, not changing the house, as would be the case if he converted to Christianity or Islam. Okay, he said this. See, this is something I didn't know. This is something I don't think even Neo Ambedkarites understand. Great, we are having such a nice conversation today. So Savarkar welcomed his conversion and said that this way he will make Dalits more dharmic. I see. क्या अजीब समय था. Well, trying to get rid of Varna means annihilation of Hinduism. How can you... what do you mean by getting rid of Varna? Okay, that's an important point. Because in some way or the other, what Varna was meant to be, that's going to remain. Because see, Virat Kohli is not going to marry a friend of mine. They are going to marry within their so-called Varna. His Varna is that he is a famous celebrity. Who becomes a celebrity, those definitions have changed today, obviously. But entertainers are the elites of today. Even PhDs are the elites of today, educational elites. And see how Varnashram might have gotten distorted. The same things that Brahmins are accused of doing. Who were Brahmins? They were experts in Indic texts and all knowledge and wisdoms, and they wrote their own things, their own papers. These were Brahmins. These were supposed to be Brahmins. And how do you know? How can you be sure that they might have gotten distorted, that they might have gotten power hungry, that they might have looked down upon the society? By seeing what the PhDs do today. It's the same thing. History doesn't repeat itself. History rhymes. And that's exactly what's happening with PhDs today. They're supposed to be experts. They look down upon the rest of the society, and often they're wrong on a lot of things. Somebody has to fight, so Kshatriya is needed. Yes. But we have a Kshatriya already because we have an army. It doesn't have to be birth-based. What I'm saying is, some aspects, what Varna is meant to be, is inevitable. Varnashram, we don't have to defend or refute it in any way, because some sort of casteism will always be. We have a Kshatriya system, we have soldiers. We have a dharmic, we have dharmic people, and we have PhDs, so there are Brahmins already. We have business people, we have Vaishyas. We have people who are poorer and do menial jobs, we have Shudras. So in that sense, Varnashram is never going to die anyway. But how do you actively enforce varnashram, then you'll have to say that no, Virat Kohli has to marry another cricketer or has to marry a celebrity. Then the problems arises, and then it starts getting distorted. So in that sense, I want the annihilation of varnashram, and in another sense, I'm saying that the concept of varna is inevitable. It will never go. It's a Sanatan principle essentially. Everyone just marries in their caste. Yeah, now today caste is essentially class. Caste is important for the institution of arranged marriage. Arranged marriage में कास्ट इंपॉर्टेंट करके क्या होगा? अगर ब्राह्मण को ही सिर्फ शादी करेगा, and if he is Brahmin in name only and has never read any Rig Veda or anything, doesn't even know how many Vedas are there, ये काहे का ब्राह्मण हुआ? ऐसा घपला ब्राह्मण को शादी करके भी क्या उखाड़ लेगा? Karpatri Maharaj wasn't a member of Hindu Mahasabha ever. Now about being casteist, his book Chaturvarnya Samalochana should be read. Also his book where he refutes allegation of Rahul Sankritayan. I have read a book by Rahul Sankritayan. He's a Marxist Buddhist historian. Wasn't a member of Hindu Mahasabha ever. But I have read articles saying this exact sentence, that he was kicked out of Hindu Mahasabha by... Okay, what else might have he might have been in? Where did Savarkar kick him out from then? Then from Arya Samaj. Because he hated Savarkar, he hated Arya Samaj for doing ghar wapsis. That much I know. Everyone's marries in their class anywhere in the world. Yes, so that will be inevitable. Okay, now let's get on with this book this paper a little more while, then I'll get back to comments. आप लोग अपना opinion देते रहे. We'll discuss. Ambedkar's views regarding... कहाँ तक पढ़ा था? Dalit Muslim Alliance, deliberate distortion of historical facts, thoughts on Pakistan. So, I felt that God was willing to lift his curse and let India be one, great and prosperous. Devji passes over these remarks by Ambedkar in complete silence. Like the leftists of today do. They either haven't read these things by Ambedkar or just pretend like Ambedkar never wrote these things. These lines were written well after the Indian Constitution had been inaugurated, and the Dalits, to use Devji's own words, quote, had replaced Muslims as the favored subjects of quotas in partitioned India, end quote. One wonders what further advantage he sees Ambedkar gaining by making such remarks in independent India. This is another important point for people who hate Ambedkar. Why is Ambedkar saying that अच्छा हुआ partition हुआ? Why is he saying that 10 years after that has happened? Because now he has no more further things to propagate. Such remarks in independent India, which when evidence such as this is not to his liking or does not fit his speculative framework, Devji chooses to ignore it. Finally, he claims that during the 1940s, Ambedkar contemplated a Dalitistan. ये क्या है अभी? Ambedkar contemplated a Dalitistan, a Dalit homeland. To set the record straight, Ambedkar called it a Chutistan. Moreover, the term Dalit did not come into currency in Indian political discourse till 1970s. Lol. Okay, a new subchapter is beginning. Let's check some comments again. Dada, this is actually amazing what you mentioned about Karpatri Maharaj hating Arya Samaj. Yes, he hated Arya Samaj because they were doing ghar wapsis. Karpatri Maharaj was saying that, अरे घर वापसी करके क्या होगा? जाना है, भगाओ इनको. Turning the clock back. If Faisal Devji argued that Pakistan was imagined and came into existence as an ideological state, Barbara Metcalfe, who J.S.I. Deepak quotes extensively in India Bharat Pakistan, she has done great research on India's partition days. Barbara Metcalfe writes that Pakistan did not pace Dhulipala. Pace Dhulipala. What? Pace Dhulipala? ये क्या लिखा है? Pakistan did not become an ideological state. This is what Barbara Metcalfe is saying. Metcalfe, as also Yasmin Khan, in their respective review essays. Okay, Barbara Metcalfe has reviewed this book. Nice. Yasmin Khan, in their respective review essays, have called into question the central argument of my book, that the idea of Pakistan did not remain vague, but increasingly attained coherence, clarity, and substance as a result of public debates on its meaning and implications. Their comments attempt at resurrecting previous कितना छोटा है. Certitudes about Jinnah. Previous certitudes about Jinnah and the Pakistan movement, as also cherished beliefs about what Pakistan would have been like had Jinnah lived longer. Aha, kitna acha hota. Metcalfe reiterates the existing consensus in partition historiography that there was continuing confusion in the public mind regarding Pakistan over crucial questions of sovereignty, territoriality, and the meaning of the state itself. Moreover, that this confusion was to no small extent caused by Jinnah's refusal to provide clarity on these matters. Thus, she refers to Jinnah's so-called deliberate lack of precision on Pakistan, and also points out that as late as 1945, Liaquat spoke of states in plural. She also notes that, quote, not everyone had a feeling for what sovereignty meant, end quote. Rather, quote, they were not realistic about modern state boundaries, end quote, since a local Muslim League functionary wrote that even after the creation of Pakistan, people could still hop on the frontier mail in Uttar Pradesh and go to the Punjab. Similarly, she adduces the well-known fact that no one knew where the lines for Punjab and Bengal would be drawn, even a few days after independence, to bolster her claim that there was widespread confusion about Pakistan's territoriality. She further argues that if one were to go by Uthmani's rhetoric that Pakistan would belong equally to all Indian Muslims, quote, this was a vision of calm undefined by territory. Calm without a significant boundary of some sorts. Okay, now Venkat Dhulipala is going to counter these people. Similarly, Khan writes that ideas of quote-unquote nation or state sovereignty were not clear to those writing for these concepts were not clear to those writing or speaking at that time. Moreover, the word Azadi used by Muslim League functionaries cannot simply be translated as independence because it had multiple meanings, just like Gandhi's Swaraj. This is actually an important point because Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, that concept was actually rebutted by Sanjay Dikshit. That Azadi kahe bol rahe? It's supposed to be Swadhinta. Azadi means Kufr se Azadi. Why are they using this word? So when Muslim League functionaries are using the term Azadi, they don't mean independence. They mean Kufr se Azadi. काफिरों से रहने का जो ये सिचुएशन है, इस सिचुएशन से आज़ादी. The word Azadi used by Muslim League functionaries cannot simply be translated as independence. Yasmin Khan implies that, quote, invoking freedom did not really directly translate into envisaging completely independent nation states at a time when no British, Asian or African colony had achieved full sovereign self-rule. Had not attained full sovereign independence. It is difficult to sustain the argument that Indians did not understand the meaning of territorial sovereignty after having lived under the British Raj for several generations and participated in mass movements against colonial rule. If we were to accept the Metcalfe and Yasmin Khan and Barbara Metcalfe's position, nationalist politics and the struggle for freedom in the subcontinent lose their meaning. Territorial sovereignty was at the core of the Congress-led movement for independence and Purna Swaraj, and later during Muslim League's struggle for Pakistan. This awareness was particularly acute in the case of the Pakistan demand, since this is what distinguished the Muslim League's platform from that of the Congress, which was willing to concede maximum autonomy to the Muslim majority provinces of British India, but not territorial sovereignty. So you see, actually Barbara Metcalfe and Yasmin Khan, they are wrong on their conclusions, but they highlight actual facts to get to wrong conclusions. So in this case, Dhulipala is pointing out that territorial sovereignty सबको पता था, territory क्या होगा, borders क्या होगा, ये सबको पता था. They were not vague, ambiguous terms. They were clear on that about it from the first day. Even though that idea that Azadi is not just freedom, that's true. That the fact that Azadi is not just about freedom is an additional layer on why Pakistan needs to be created. Territory yehi hoga, Pakistan yehi banega, and that will lead also to Azadi from Kufr. That's the idea. Okay, let's check out some comments. I am worried about Hindutva becoming too liberal and not leaving any space for conservative Hindus. If by conservative Hindus you mean birth-based casteism, then the problem hai hi. But other than that, Hindutva I am seeing is pretty accepting of different viewpoints. it does not have to be, see, actual liberal का meaning क्या है? Being accepting or being open to other ideas. So if that's liberalism, तो Hinduism तो है ही liberal basically. But other than that, if you mean liberal in the sense of today's leftist liberals, तो उसका भी एक स्ट्रेन है. कुछ हिंदू बहुत सारे हैं इन दैट वे, स्पेशली इन इकोनॉमिक्स. बहुत से हिंदुत्ववादी तो एकदम सोशलिस्ट पॉलिसीज़ में बिलीव करते हैं. सरकार को कुछ ये करना चाहिए, सरकार को ये बंद करना चाहिए, सरकार को ये चलाना चाहिए, सरकार को ये रोकना चाहिए, सब कुछ सरकार को ही करना चाहिए. These are socialist Hindus who I am accepting, but I am not that way myself. So in that way, if someone believes that casteism is important, so they will have to accept my views as well, that casteism is not important or it cannot be enforced कि ब्राह्मण और ब्राह्मण में शादी होगा. Next, read Lala Lajpat Rai's on Hindu nationalism. I see. Barbara Metcalfe is loved by Islamists. AMU has awarded her with Sir Syed Medal. Yes, that's why India, Bharat, Pakistan, J.S.I. Deepak quotes her. He quotes her says that, see, this is what she's saying, these are her facts, but my conclusions will be my own. He does not go on agreeing with Metcalfe. Mate, you need to listen to Brown Pandit's podcast of Dhulipala. Acha. The host Omar Ali has brought up many facts which bolsters Dhulipala's argument. Acha. Omar Ali of Brown Pandits is a very well-read man. Acha. हाँ, Omar Ali कहाँ का है? Karpatri Maharaj is actually famous for helping Bharat Shrivastram Sangh in converting Bengali Hindus who were converted to Islam in Noakhali genocide. One of my relatives was one of them. How is this going on? Why is he accepting conversions here and then refuting conversions there? ये तो अजीब बात है. Even Ishtiaq Ahmed has proved that Muslim League knew that UP Bihar will not be part of future day Pakistan. Yes, we discussed this yesterday. Hey, do you know about similarities between Bangla people and Maithili people who have common Shakt sect and fish खाने का भी कल्चर है. तो जहाँ रिवर होगा वहाँ पे फिश खाने का कल्चर तो होने वाला है. तो मैथिली पीपल, सी इट्स सो क्लोज टू बंगाल. these things were not distinct, I don't think, back then. अच्छा ये मैथिली है, ये बंगाली है, ऐसा नहीं है. A few days back I made a video on something I don't remember actually. In the end, I was showing the connection between Cholas and Bengals and Biharis and Bengalis, and I read out a poem from 1200 written by a Buddhist scholar called Bhushuku, or his actual name is Shanti Deva. There, that poem written, which is supposedly in Bengali, it's considered to be a Bengali poem. It has words like Leli and Bhaili, which are words from the Bihar region today. But in those days, it was considered Bengali. It was maybe Bengali did not have a name back then. I don't know who was claiming that poem to be theirs. But today it's considered Bengali, but it has Bihar region's words. So obviously Maithili might not have to be an absolutely distinct culture 1,000 years back. It was a syncretic thing. Linguistic lines पे state division होना कब शुरू हुआ है? Very much later. That's when all these problems started. Isn't ISKCON preaching some sort of Abrahamic Hinduism with Krishna? Yes, I think that too. But I don't care about it much because they are not going to come and kill me. If they try to be violent, then it's a different problem. But they are not saying that go kill people who don't believe Krishna is the most superior thing, most superior God. You can just consider them just another new sampradaya inside Hinduism. Ho gaya. The central conservative argument is that change should be gradual, right? For example, 95% of Indians marry in their caste. There should be no radical change in that it can be heavily disruptive. Here I agree with you. मैं अभी किसी ब्राह्मण को जाके बोलने वाला नहीं हूँ कि नहीं तुमको शूद्रा को ही शादी करना है, जो जी में आए करो, बट जस्ट रिमेंबर दैट कुछ ज़्यादा बेनिफिट मिलने वाला है नहीं है, स्पेशली अगर ब्राह्मण हो तो, क्योंकि कितने मे बी 5% ऑफ ब्राह्मण्स इन इंडिया नो एनीथिंग अबाउट ऋग्वेदा, तो काहे का ब्राह्मण हुआ वो तो. बट आई एम नेवर गोइंग टू फोर्स यू टू चेंज योर व्यूज़ ऑन मैरिज. अरेंज मैरिज लीगल है, लीगल ही रहेगा. तुमको जिस कास्ट में मैरिज करना है करना पड़ेगा. कास्टिज्म इज रिफ्यूटेड ओनली ऑन अ स्टेट लेवल. दैट इज व्हाट सेक्युलरिज्म इज ऑल अबाउट. The state has to be secular. The person does not have to be secular, progressive, conservative, anything. The person can be anything they want. Just don't break the law. So it's better not to walk in uncharted territory. So yeah, I don't have problem with you doing this. Watch India in Pixels. Yes, this channel I have heard a lot about. If you want to learn about similarities between Indian languages. Rabindranath considered Vidyapati, a Mithila poet, as his guru. Right, he has written many poems in Maithili. I have an uncle who is Rajput Kshatriya Varna and he married a Kurmi girl, Kshatriya Varna too, okay. There was not much opposition and they live in village. But I guess that's because Kshatriya में ही है इसलिए opposition नहीं हुआ कि कुछ साल पहले हुआ इसलिए. Yeah, Bihar was part of Bengal province earlier, yes. Linguistic division of states happened in 56. It was a mistake, though it's manageable. It was a huge mistake. It's a gigantic mistake. Shain and Pal empires were primarily based out of both West Bengal and Bihar. So both regions are interconnected. Even Gupta dynasty are originally from Bengal who went on to rule in Magadh. I don't know about this, but Shain did not originate in Bengal, okay. Shain came from Karnataka and invaded Bengal, and after that they became a Bengali, like a Bengal's kingdom, so to speak. But they are originally Karnatakas. He had great debates with Arya Samaji on doctrinal issues, since it was seen by him as a pseudo-Christians or deist. Okay. Division on the basis of language only started during British era. Yes, they created these linguistic fault lines. Yes, read this in Shashi Tharoor's Era of Darkness. I am reading exactly this topic in the ongoing chapter of India, Bharat, Pakistan in J.S. Deepak's book. I don't have a problem with ISKCON becoming Abrahamic. Even at worst, they can't be like Islam because Hinduism doesn't allow that. Yeah, as long as they don't believe in violence, जो समझना है समझो, अपना खुद का संप्रदाय बना रहे बनाने दो. That will be just another sect in Hinduism. We don't have to agree upon everything. Let's get on with this paper a little more. Provinces. अच्छा, आज इतना टेक्निकल डिफिकल्टी हुआ, लैपटॉप से बैठना पड़ा है, डिले भी हुआ ऑलमोस्ट आधा घंटा का, और आज ही इतना अच्छा डिस्कशन हो रहा है. अरे कोई लाइक वाइक करो, कितने लोग देख रहे हैं, कोई लाइक नहीं कर रहा है. Even I keep forgetting to like when I'm enjoying a video. So actually likes don't represent whether people are having a good time or not. I just keep sometimes people just keep forgetting to like, but not territorial sovereignty. Acha. The comments about Jinnah's so-called lack of precision or popular nebulousness about Pakistan is astounding in the face of extensive evidence I have adducted to the contrary in my book, which these reviews pass over in silence. All these reviews are just ignoring all the evidence brought out by Dhulipala. इसलिए इंडिया भारत पाकिस्तान एंड इंडिया दैट इज़ भारत का कोई रेफ्यूटेशन, कोई क्रिटिसिज्म रिव्यू कोई किसी ने लिखा भी नहीं. I saw one negative review, big explained review of India that is Bharat in a blog website. These scholars are not even looking at J.S. Deepak's book. अगर पढ़ा भी है तो पढ़ के एकदम कूड़े में डाल दिया कि ये इससे दूर रहो, हमको डर लग रहा है इसके बुक से. That's how they are reacting because there's nothing to refute. India Bharat Pakistan is full of quotations and citations and proofs and speeches by other people. J.S. Deepak gives 2 pages of other people's quotes, then gives 4 lines of conclusion. So it's unrefutable whatever that book says. Evidence I have adduced to. Far from being vague, Jinnah's unequivocal stance on Pakistan's sovereignty was famously brought out in his exchange with Gandhi in 1942. When asked whether he saw Andhra's bid for separation from Madras province in the same light as the Pakistan demand, Gandhi wrote, "There can be no comparison between Pakistan and Andhra separation. The Andhra separation is a redistribution on a linguistic basis." इससे गांधी को प्रॉब्लम नहीं था. The Andhras do not claim to be a separate nation having nothing in common with the rest of India. Why? Because they are Hindu. Pakistan, on the other hand, is a demand for carving out of India's portion to be treated as a wholly independent sovereign state. Thus, there seems to be nothing in common between the two. Jinnah in response declared that Gandhi, quote, has himself put the Muslim demand in a nutshell. Gandhi poignantly responded, "I have read..." Okay, Jinnah appreciated what Gandhi said about the Muslim League demand. Look at this. Gandhi has put the Muslim demand in a nutshell. अच्छा से समझा दिया गांधी ने. This is what Jinnah is saying. Gandhi poignantly responded, "I have read with attention Quaid-e-Azam's reply to my article in Harijan." Quaid-e-Azam is Jinnah. Pakistan, according to him, in a nutshell, is a demand for carving out of India a portion to be wholly treated as an independent and sovereign state. This sovereign state can conceivably go to war against the one of which it was but yesterday a part. It can also equally conceivably make treaties with the other states. All this can certainly be had, but surely not by willing consent of the rest. But it seems he does not want it by consent. Jinnah was not vague about Pakistan's territoriality, either, as noted earlier, and also repeatedly quelled any talk of a federation or confederation between Hindu India and Pakistan. As he clearly stated, federation, however, this is Jinnah's quote. Federation, however, described and in whatever terms it is put, must ultimately deprive the federating units of authority in all vital matters. This is true. The units, despite themselves, would be compelled to grant more and more powers to the central authority. Yeah, this is the federal structure. He therefore exhorted his followers to, quote, remove from your mind any idea of some form of such loose federation, end quote. As regards Liaqat's use of states, the word states, it must be noted that he referred to the singular state in the same quote as also on many other occasions. He also used, quote-unquote, state, quoting Jinnah in a special article that he contributed to the Indian Annual Register after the 1941 annual All India Muslim League Madras session, which had passed the resolution declaring Pakistan to be an independent state. It is therefore not surprising when, at the convention of Muslim League legislators in 1946, Jinnah dismissed the use of states, the word states, in the Lahore resolution as a typographical error. There was very little protest. To underline its sovereignty, Jinnah portrayed Pakistan as a vector for pan-Islamic brotherhood of unity on the world stage, which would be a bulwark, a protection against the depredations of both Hindu and Western imperialisms. As Jinnah told associates during a visit to Allama Iqbal's grave in 1942, quote, Pakistan holds the key to the liberation of the entire Islamic world. He also saw Pakistan as the base from where scientists, doctors, engineers, economists would be trained and spread throughout the Middle East to serve their co-religionists, meaning people who are in their religion, to serve their co-religionists and create an awakening among them. He showed keen interest in the affairs of the Islamic world, particularly commenting on Palestine. During the 1945-46 elections, he asked, quote, why Palestine should become the dumping ground for such a large number of Jews, end quote. As regards Uthmani, his views on the relationship between Pakistan and Indian Muslims were identical to Jinnah's as outlined above, as also was his faith in the hostage population theory. Hostage population theory we have discussed yesterday, which means that I will not harm your people who are living as minorities in my country, and therefore you will not harm my people who are living as minorities in your country. Both of them are hostages to one another. Jinnah's, as outlined above, as also was his faith in the hostage population theory or Pakistan's promise to protect Muslim minorities in Hindu India. In addition, Jinnah, the Muslim League and the ulema supporting the Pakistan demand defended its viability as a nation state against charges that it would not survive due to economical, political, social and military reasons, which is what is being proven right today. Pakistan is finally not being able to survive it as a viable nation because economic, political, social and military reasons. Both Metcalfe and Khan, Barbara Metcalfe and this Khan, Yasmin Khan, choose to ignore or stay silent on these principal planks of the Muslim League's ideology. I need to drink some water now. Okay, interesting. बहुत सारे comments आए हैं. Let's discuss. We are parallelly discussing casteism in the comment section and partition in the video. ये अच्छा है. I meant the territory ruled by Senas was mostly Bengal and Bihar. Yes. Watch India in Pixels video on Brajaboli. Yeah. We call it in Bangla Brajabhasha. Brajaboli and poet Vidyapati. It's eye-opening. Yeah. Nihilist trader, listen to Chamu Krishna Shastri interview on Vad. There was no language issues ever in the entire Indian influence zone. Yet Acharya Bhaktivedanta life journey is an inspiration. The troubles he had while in West preaching Vaishnavism and maintaining a sattvic diet. Okay, yeah, yeah. It's not like he's an evil person. He obviously just has his different interpretation and how to propagate it. Bro, make a video on Jyotirao Phule and Savitribai Phule. People like that Dalit African Suraj Yangde is carrying their photos with him. Okay, for that I need to read up something on them. I just have heard their names when I was in school. I don't know anything of significance of them about them. Linguistic reorganization of states fostered sentiments of regional subnationalism. Yes, that's the problem we are facing in Bengal today. Parakram Divya, there was no language issues ever in the entire Indian influence zone. Vahito, thanks for the recommendation. But ISKCON trying to put Shivaji below Vishnuji is not right. I feel even as someone who admires Lakshmi Narayan. Shivaji below Vishnuji. Why do they need to be compared? Oh, Shivji below Vishnuji is not right. I feel. Yeah. See, you can feel that they are not right, but you'll have to just say that yeah, they are not right, and you can go around telling people that remember ISKCON is not right. And even if you are more serious, you can make your own sampradaya and go around countering those people. Have a debate with ISKCON people and say and explain them why you think Shivji needs to be above Vishnu. So in that way, that is what has happened in India forever. These sects, sampradayas have gone around debating people, even Buddhists. That's what has gone on always, and that's why I don't have a problem with ISKCON existing. I don't agree with their views, but I don't have a problem with them existing, as I think nor do you. So yeah, just have a problem with that. But they can exist because it's their own sampradaya. Let them think that way. If you think it's wrong, you got to call them on debates and refute their ideas. I was saying that there are castes which fall in same varna but they don't intermarry. Like Jats and Gujjars claim to be Kshatriya but don't intermarry. Even most regressive Hindu texts won't have a problem with same varna marriage. I see. Same varna marriage. I have no doubt in the yes, because caste thing was created by the word caste, and the concept of caste that we understand today was done during the colonial times. I have no doubt in the innate unity of India and that it can never be broken by language, but in a developing country there will be villains who will try to exploit language, for example DMK or Bangla Pakho. Yeah, so just like all other our enemies of Hinduism and India, we'll have to counter these people as well. Saw Gangadhar Adhikari on the thumbnail. Are you going to talk about him later? No, I put Gangadhar Adhikari on the thumbnail because yesterday we were discussing him. That's why. Because he had the same ideas as Rahmat Ali Khan, Liaquat Ali Khan, etc. That India needs to be broken up into multiple pieces, not just one India and one Pakistan. These guys thought India should be broken up into 30 pieces. Shravya, yeah, I agree with you. They even put Devi like Durga Kali below Krishna, but we can at least have debate with them, which we can't have with other religions. Yes, it's a different sampradaya. Chamu Shastri ji was awarded Padma Shri by this government. His thorough academic do give it a listen. Okay, वाद में आया है तो अच्छा ही होगा. वाद में कभी खराब पॉडकास्ट नहीं होता है. Agree, sure I will. Allama Iqbal was hardcore Muslim. Yes, he believed in Khilafat and made shairis exalting Ottomans. Yes, and preaching Muslim brotherhood through it. Yes. Good evening. Good evening, agnostic. I think Bhardwaj speaks has a thread on Phule. You will get clarity on that. Okay, I see. कितना सारा channel हो गया है. One thing ISKCON needs to be given credit is for their success in converting people in foreign countries to Hinduism. Yeah, this is a shady area because it seems nice on an ontological level कि अच्छा at least नाम के वास्ते हिंदू तो हो गया. But I don't think epistemologically it has any significance. Okay, because politically it does have significance क्योंकि जितने लोग अपने आप को हिंदू बोलेंगे and they will stand up for India's rights and stuff, वो हुआ तो अच्छा ही है. मगर epistemologically, psychologically, I don't think it has made any difference because based on the little reading of Prabhupada that I have done, it seems like conceptually he has just replaced the word Jesus and replaced it with Krishna, and that's how he has explained to these people that see, that was your religion, it has its flaws and problems. Now check this out. Why don't you try this? This is exactly same but with a different name. So epistemologically Hinduism कितना समझ में आया इन लोगों को, I have very serious doubts. No other sect has been as remotely successful as ISKCON. Yeah, successful in converting in name. Epistemologically convert किया है कि नहीं पता नहीं है, but that will be of benefit in some day or the other. That much I'm sure. And एक और advantage है कि अगर कोई समझ लेते हैं कि अगर ISKCON वाले हो भी गए कोई some white and African people who are converting to Hinduism because of ISKCON, even they will end up reading different kinds of texts and hearing these arguments of our side. Maybe they will check out other sampradayas someday. Maybe their kids will check out. So overall it's a good thing, but epistemologically I don't think it has had any significant benefit, at least not in their personal lives. उनके पर्सनल लाइफ में बेनिफिट नहीं हुआ मुझे लगता है, मगर उनको अगर लगता है कि सिर्फ दिन भर दो हाथ उठा के हरे कृष्णा करने से एक मेंटल पीस मिल रहा है तो ठीक है, बट सिर्फ मेंटल पीस अगर गोल है तब कोई भी रिलीजन ठीक है. भरोसा रखो कि भगवान ठीक कर देगा, ठीक है, सब रिलीजन में ही वो हो जाएगा. मगर हिंदुइज्म शुड बी, वी शुड आस्क a little more, we should expect a little more out of Hinduism, because it's a mountain of knowledge और wisdom के लिए है, सिर्फ mental peace के लिए नहीं है. mental peace भी important है, but it's not just that. तो वो knowledge and wisdom मुझे नहीं लगता है कि उन लोगों के पास है by converting to ISKCON's version of Hinduism. True, they still use creationism. Yeah, Prabhupada also considers Jesus as an avatar of Krishna. Hail to my King Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj ki jai. Yes. Is it his birthday today? I saw someone was asking about him as well, that why didn't I make a video on him. I had no idea. But today I saw a video where a comedian got thrashed. One man, such bad jokes Indian comedians have. This guy was going around saying that why are there so many places named after Shivaji in Mumbai? Man, how stupid can you get? He's saying this terminus is also called Shivaji, that airport is also called Shivaji. Name some other people. And a few seconds later he got thrashed by some people. सबको डीप फिलोसफी में नहीं घुसना होता है, कुछ लोग बस भक्ति करके खुश रहते हैं, उनके लिए है ISKCON. And exactly, you are absolutely right, and this is what I support about them. This is why I think that they should not exist or anything. That's not the case. This is why they can exist. अच्छा है, थेरेपिस्ट को पैसा दोगे, उससे बदले में अच्छा है कृष्ण का नाम लेके अगर तुम्हारी जिंदगी में सेम इफेक्ट होता है तो इट्स गुड. इट्स नॉट लाइक एवरीवन हैज टू बिकम अ स्कॉलर. यू आर बिजी ऑल डे, यू हैव अ जॉब, यू हैव अ टफ लाइफ. दिन के बाद में थोड़ा हरे कृष्ण बोलने से शांति आ रहा है दिन के बाद, तो अच्छा है. Yes, it's his birthday. Acha. 19th February, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Jayanti. I see. I didn't know. Oh, yesterday I was seeing another great meme from a Maharashtrian page that for this very reason, I guess. So because it's his birthday today, they were showing 3 comparisons. That see, this was entire Mughal India, except some regions, and then Shivaji comes into the picture, and then it's entire Hindu. What was the name? What was the name of his Hindvi Swaraj, right? Then the entire India turns saffron right after Shivaji. But that one thing remains, that we will always have a tough time getting the Bengalis of today to talk about Shivaji in a great light, because these people, since they are actually hardcore leftists and don't have much knowledge of history, they will keep bringing up those times and those stories of Hindu Marathi kings sending men to basically attack and destroy Indian Bengal's villages as a counter to Bengal's Muslim kings. But what they ended up doing was harming the local village populations, which was both Hindu and Bengali. So that we have too much civilizational memory of Maratha kings harming Bengalis in villages. That's the problem we have in talking too much about Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj in Bengal, at least so far, at least till today. If later someday Bengalis realize, a majority of Bengal realizes that, okay, that was a different time, the context was different, why they were doing it was different anyway, they wanted to harm the Muslim kings. As a side effect, Bengali Hindu villagers got harmed countless times. But now it's a different context today. We need unity among all of us to counter something else. And today no Maharashtrian is sending their goons to beat up Bengalis here. तो वी कैन मूव ऑन फ्रॉम दैट हिस्ट्री आई थिंक. वो लोग जो हालेलुया करके मिस्टिकल हीलिंग करते हैं उनमें बिलीव करने वाले लोगों के लिए पंडित धीरेन्द्र शास्त्री और इस्कॉन जैसी ही ऑर्गेनाइजेशन चाहिए. यस, एटलीस्ट वो हिंदू तो रहेंगे. एग्जैक्टली. एंड व्हाई शुड वी इवन लुक डाउन अपॉन इट. ये उनको ऐसा ही चाहिए तो ठीक है. But that can be said about any religion. Islam, Judaism, Christianity, all can be called cults by that logic. Yes, if actually anything can be called a cult by that logic. ये हिंदवी स्वराज व्यावे यही सृची इच्छा. Okay. Why is casteism politics not ending in India? The Bahujan Samaj parties and Ambedkarites are insulting and leaving. ये I think this is almost done. ये और कुछ एक दो जनरेशन में ख़त्म होने वाला है. इसका टाइम गया है. I'll tell you why. Let me read your question fully. Ambedkarites are insulting and leaving Sanatan Dharma. Why no one is helping the Dalits to stop get intimated from the Tukre? Bahujan Samaj party and Ambedkarites are Tukre gang separating them from us. Yes, I'll tell you why it's almost done. क्योंकि एक हिंदुत्व लेके तो एक अवेयरनेस है मासेस में. बीजेपी का इतना बड़ा एक दलित लीडर भी है हु इज़ द हेड ऑफ देयर माइनॉरिटी एस्पेक्ट्स, SC/ST एस्पेक्ट्स दैट इज. तो हिंदू यूनिटी इज़ अ नेसेसरी थिंग. वो रियलाइजेशन बहुत जल्दी लोगों में आ रहा है. सेकेंड थिंग इज दिस, बिहार को करने दो बीजेपी, तब होगा उसका कुछ इकोनॉमिक्स का. यूपी में सिंस यहाँ पे कैपिटलिज्म आ चुका है योगी के लिए, कैपिटलिज्म भी आएगा, योगी उस वेल्थ क्रिएट भी करेगा, क्रिएट करके थोड़ा बहुत सारा डिस्ट्रीब्यूट भी करेगा, उससे और लोग अपलिफ्ट हो जाएंगे पॉवर्टी से. इस वजह से कास्टिज्म रह नहीं पाएगा यूपी में. कैपिटलिज्म जहाँ जहाँ जाएगा कास्टिज्म नहीं रहेगा, क्योंकि कैपिटलिज्म इंश्योर्स दैट यू हैव टू गेट द बेस्ट मैन फॉर द जॉब. कोई कारपेंटर बुलाओगे आप घर पे, आपको क्या चाहिए? काम अच्छा से करे और जितना कम हो सके पैसा ले. तो वहाँ कोई अपने घर में ब्राह्मण कारपेंटर को कहाँ से बुलाएगा अगर वहाँ पे कोई शूद्रा खड़ा है, अनटचेबल सो कॉल्ड दलित खड़ा है, जो कि वो काम बेटर कर सकता है एंड कम पैसे में करेगा. ऐसे ऐसे बहुत चीज़ें हर लेयर पे कैपिटलिज्म विल इंश्योर दैट कास्टिज्म इज एलिमिनेटेड. और फिर हिंदू यूनिटी भी हो रहा है यूपी में, तो ऑलरेडी हो रहा है. तो यूपी इज़ द फर्स्ट वन हु इज़ गोइंग टू शो द लाइट दैट ये देखो, ये है डेथ ऑफ कास्टिस्ट पॉलिटिक्स इन इंडिया. ये उसका मुंडी उखाड़ के मैंने दिखाया सबको. योगी आदित्यनाथ ये करने वाला है. देन लेट बिहार टेक इट अप, बिकॉज इट्स मोस्टली इन बिहार यूपी साइड, राइट. बंगाल में तो कभी सुना भी नहीं कास्टिज्म है. Although they only in the marriage aspects, a lot of Bengalis still keep that up. Even communist Bengalis still marry in their caste. So those things are still going on. So I can leave those conservatives to have enjoy their own life if they find some benefit in it. बट ये हायरिंग वायरिंग के चक्कर में यहाँ पे दलित देखा थप्पड़ मार दिया, वो सब बंगाल में कभी हुआ नहीं है लास्ट 60-70 साल में. मगर बिहार और यूपी विल शो द वे वेरी सुन. That Maratha force was actually a Muslim Maratha force. I have heard from Abhijit about it several times. I see. Then why were they being sent against Muslim kings then? Then those Maratha forces may have been coming to harm kings, and then they ended up harming the Hindu villages. That might be a case, but that was not one force. Remember, they sent countless forces. We have like ground level poems that mothers sing to their children, saying that khoka ghumalo, pada juralo, borgi elo deshe. So they are saying that the kid needs to go to sleep, or and sometime later the borgis are coming, or they have already come, go to sleep. It's like gabbar aa jayega, kind of a notion about borgis, who were the Maratha leaders who were coming to Bengal. तो कभी ना कभी ये अभिजीत मित्रा जिस बारे में बोला है वो हुआ होगा. कभी कभी सिर्फ साइड इफेक्ट, कोलैटरल डैमेज भी बने होंगे बंगाली हिंदूज. तो माई पॉइंट इज दैट नाउ वी हैव अ डिफरेंट कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑल टुगेदर, एंड नो मराठा टुडे इज कॉलिंग फॉर हार्मिंग ऑफ बंगालीज इन बंगाल. तो आई डोंट थिंक वी नीड टू गिव अ शिट अबाउट दैट एनीमोर. Perfection means knowing where to stop. Western ISKCON followers are overdoing it. Somehow there is a civilizational memory of Borghi's invasion of Bengal, but no memory of the Islamic invasions of Bengal. This is, yes, I forgot to mention this point. I actually use this in my arguments as well. That yes, कितना प्रॉब्लम है बोर्गियों के साथ. ठाकरे, राज ठाकरे ये बोला, ये वो बोला, बोर्गीज ने ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, अरे दूसरों को देखो, मुस्लिम्स ने क्या किया बंगाल में, वो सब सिविलाइजेशन मेमोरी गायब हो गया है, लेफ्टिस्ट कलाकारी. Rana Prajapati, because they survive only on casteism, they don't have anything else to offer. Yeah. I watched in news that Bhim army in Madhya Pradesh was full of its supporters in the meeting. You have also watched it in news channels. Harsha ji is saying wrong. No Muslim force. Yes, there were Muslims in it too, but in a force was not there. Only agents there were. Right. Yeah. बहुत से, it's all ambiguous ना. Many things might have happened, but the end result was that Marathas sent some people and ended up harming Bengali Hindus, along with the property of Muslim landlords, Muslim kings, and Muslim villagers. But Bengali Hindus were harmed, itna to sure hai, because of the Maratha kings who they sent. So now we can easily move on from it, especially because we have someone more to worry about, who harmed us back then and is harming us today as well. Marathas are not harming us today. Paper कहाँ गया? When Metcalfe writes, okay, how much did I write? Okay. Metcalfe further writes that, okay, now Barbara Metcalfe is saying that Dhulipala fails to persuade the reader that there was clarity or substance about the expectations for an Islamic state. Okay, this can be refuted just by the number of books that Dhulipala has sold. कोई कन्विंस नहीं हो रहा है तो क्यों सब लोग इस बुक को ही लेके बात कर रहे हैं, इस बुक को एक्सेप्ट यहाँ वहाँ डाल के इतना बुक लिख डाल रहे हैं. संजय दीक्षित ने कितना कोट किया है इसको, इंडिया दैट इज भारत में कोट है इसका, तो कन्विंस कौन नहीं हुआ. शी पॉइंट्स आउट दैट माई बुक वेरियसली, ये वर्ड क्या है, माई बुक variously documents quote visions of a totalitarian khilafat, of a liberal democracy infused with Islamic values, of a state simply ruled by Muslims. She is saying as if this was not the case. She notes that Ishtiaq H. Qureshi, the author of some pamphlets on Pakistan sponsored by the Muslim League during the 1945 elections, quote, expected Pakistan to have the law of Islam, but averred that we cannot leave these matters to the ulema, hardly Usmani's view, end quote. Finally, she brings up two letters written by Muslim League supporters in Uttar Pradesh, reproduced verbatim at the end of the chapter 6 in my book, wherein they express bewilderment about Pakistan to the Quaid-e-Azam, that is Jinnah, thus underlining her overall point that Pakistan remained a vague idea in the public mind. Okay, so she brings up the argument, in order to help her argument, she brings up a letter which Dhulipala himself has reproduced in his book. When Metcalfe writes in this vein about Qureshi and the ulema, she sets up an untenable dichotomy between them, downplaying the vast areas of their convergence. Firstly, the two-nation theory was an article of faith for both of them. As Qureshi wrote, quote, we are a mass of heterogeneous men and women held together by our common allegiance to Islam. Weaken this allegiance and we are lost. Like the seared leaves of autumn, we are blown in all directions, ultimately finding our way to the manure pit to enrich the growth of other peoples, other systems, other ideals. Secondly, like the ulema in general, Qureshi held the European liberal democratic state in contempt. He didn't even like liberal democratic states. He spoke of the, quote, evils in the Western system of elections, end quote, and disapproved of it, quote, since it maximized the individual's liberty, defining limits on his actions as narrowly as possible. Okay, he was against individual liberty. Dekho inko. Islam, on the other hand, gave the individual the fullest freedom to ascend to its highest stature, but could not allow him to, quote, indulge in meaningless and destructive pleasure or wield an unhealthy influence upon society. Qureshi went on to dismiss liberal democracy as a Jewish conspiracy, and in this regard, approvingly, noted that Hitler was not wrong when he identified democracies with international Jewry. Because, okay, मेरा channel demonetize हो जाएगा ये सब line पढ़ के. Because high finance and big business, which were the backbone of social organization in the democracies, are very much in the hands of the Jews. इसलिए पाकिस्तान बनने के बाद हिंदूज को वहाँ से निकाल दिया, इसलिए वहाँ पे बिजनेस करने वाला कोई नहीं रह गया, और आज उस देश का ये हाल है because of this very reason. And because finance is the real matter of bourgeois democracy, the Jews are very much in control. Let's check some comments. Uh, Bengali Hindu are harmed by Marathas. Yeah, I agree, Rana. Sergi, what you said I didn't understand. Marathas harmed Bengali Hindus. Why would Marathas harm Hindus? Because they wanted to economically exploit Bengal. Yes, Rana Prajapati, because they were sending men to harm the state, the Muslim state, the Muslim kings. But the side effect was that Bengali Hindus, their houses were being burned, their property was being stolen, taken away. So that is how Bengali Hindus were harmed by Marathi kings. Because they are thinking these are the populations of a Muslim king. So kya hai, maro. Because that is what was the difference. The difference between then, those years, and today is exactly this. No, Hindus were everywhere. They were not united as a country. वही तो problem है. They were doing the same things because of this very reason, that there was no Hindu unity or one united Hindu country. यही तो सब problem का शुरू है. तो वो इस aspect में क्यों नहीं होगा? हर aspect में यही problem था. इस aspect में भी इसलिए होगा. Thirdly, both Qureshi and ulema like Uthmani were committed to the idea of fashioning Pakistan as an Islamic state. As Qureshi noted, quote, those who say that politics has nothing to do with religion talk in a terminology which does not concern us. That means that they don't even care about that. The principle enunciated by the Quran and the Prophet should form the supreme and basic law of a Muslim state. End quote. The question that remained was how to realize such a state. It is in this context that Qureshi declared that matters could not be left to the ulema. Okay, so उस context में बोल रहा था. But this did not imply confidence in the capacities of modern Muslim intellectuals like himself to attain the goal. As he wrote, quote, are we free of blemishes ourselves? Are we not open to the great accusation that we do not know either the Quran or the traditions of the Prophet? And of course, who are we to criticize the jurists without studying them? He therefore wanted modern academicians to equip themselves with the necessary knowledge of the Quran, the Hadith, the writings and discussions of medieval jurists as well as Islamic history. This was easier said than done, and as Qureshi acknowledged, mystery over these subjects could take a lifetime. Mastery over these subjects could take a lifetime. The key for him, therefore, lay in cooperation between specialists working in these various disciplines. This kept a door open for consultations with the ulema. This view did not differ from that of Uthmani, who did not expect the ulema to monopolize the work of crafting Islamic laws for Pakistan. Rather, as I point out, that is Dhulipala himself, there was a broad understanding that the Islamic State in Pakistan under God's law would not materialize overnight, but would emerge only gradually as a result of negotiations and deliberations between various stakeholders in Pakistan. Barbara Metcalfe's remark that I failed to persuade the reader that there was so-called clarity and substance about the expectations for an Islamic State is therefore astonishing. More so since Metcalfe herself strangely concludes her review by noting that, quote, Dhulipala leaves no doubt that many UP Muslim voters wanted both an independent state and a state that in some ambiguous Islamic sense would be imbued with transcendent purpose and meaning. तो जिस टॉपिक से जिस टेंजेंट में धुलीपाला को क्रिटिसाइज किया बारबरा मेटकैफ ने, कंक्लूजन में उसका अपोजिट बोल डाला. Contrary to Metcalfe's claim, if someone in UP thought that even after Pakistan's creation he could hop onto a train and go to Peshawar or Calcutta as always, he was not being unrealistic about modern state boundaries. Rather, he articulated the expectation that the rise of twin sovereignties following the demise of the British Empire in India would not necessarily foreclose possibilities of exchange across borders for nation states. This sentiment was captured by a young Muslim League supporter writing in the Dawn. Dawn उस समय का newspaper है. Writing in the Dawn a few months before the partition. The writer noted with relief the return of sanity in international social affairs following the announcement from London of abolition of visas between Britain and France. The Second World War has shown that these barriers and safeguards have not brought about any special security and happiness to the countries or nations concerned or to the world at large. Free and unhindered travel between the countries he maintained would go a long way in fostering friendly relations between the Asian countries, thus enabling them to cooperate with one another for the freedom and glory of the whole continent. Let's see what comments are going on. Lack of Swayambodh and Shatrubodh has been a chronical disease among Hindus. Yes, and Hindu Bengalis think now they are activating their Shatrubodh against non-Bengalis, not non-Hindus. शत्रुबोध है, गलत लोगों को शत्रु समझना is the problem. This brings us to the next set of criticisms that Metcalfe levels against my book. थोड़ा पानी पी लेते हैं. Most Hindi speakers speak Hindustani Urdu and consider it Hindi, and want every non-Hindi speaker in India to learn it. Yeah, I am not sure if they want every non-Hindi speaker in India to learn it. Maybe a lot of them do, or maybe a lot of them don't. I have no idea on this, but that is the problem, that Hindi speakers don't even know actual Sanskritized Hindi. Most of them don't know. Barbara Metcalfe accuses me of quote unquote tainting Jinnah by quoting without comment an OSS report comparing him to Hitler. She also notes that he, Dhulipala, invariably has Muslim League speakers and writers referring to Jinnah as my Qaed, or our Qaed, as if he were a leader of a cult, even when the possessive is not present in Urdu. Interesting allegation that Barbara Metcalfe is saying that you are saying that ye hamara hai, that hamara word does not exist in Urdu. Interesting. Furthermore, according to Metcalfe, Jinnah's statements that Pakistan demand was not a bargaining chip, quote, cannot be taken at face value, end quote. She also asserts that Jinnah warned a new Muslim Medina where Muslims and non-Muslims would live together as they had in the Prophet's day. Exactly the Medina that Madni espoused for an undivided India. Finally, Metcalfe suggests bias and lack of even-handedness on my part by declaring that I let the Congress leadership off the hook by not criticizing their rejection of the cabinet mission plan. Metcalfe's speak is not unusual. Many historians remain invested in upholding the image of the secular Jinnah, a tragic figure wronged by history and historians. However, the OSS report I quote was not the only one that likened Jinnah to Hitler and the Muslim League to the Nazi Party. On various occasions, letters written by Muslim League supporters and even members of the All India Muslim League Working Committee themselves addressed Jinnah as my Führer. What? Oh my god, my channel is going to get screwed. Ambedkar too compared the Muslim League program to that of the Nazis. Metcalfe's insistence that we should not take Jinnah seriously, even when he solemnly declared that Pakistan was not a quote-unquote bargaining counter, but a quote matter of life and death for the Muslims, is inexplicable. Her remarks about the translations of poetry are untenable. One wonders how a reference to Jinnah as our leader reduces him to a cult leader. Okay, Dhulipala is saying, I'm not even saying that he's a cult leader. Tumko kahan se samajh mein aaya? That would be more likely if he were referred to as the leader, right? Moreover, my use of the possessive is apt since the poet startlingly uses the singular in the same poem while referring to Jinnah, thus casting an intimate relationship between the Qaed, that is Jinnah, Qaed and his people. Hence, जिसने हमें बेदर किया है और नहीं है जिसके दिल में कीना क्या है, और तुमको देकर आज दुआएं. In any case, these translations were personally vetted by C.M. Naeem, Professor Emeritus at the University of Chicago, and that more than suffices for me. Oh, ये Metcalfe को अच्छा से धो दिया. Professor C.M. Naeem ने बोला है कि हाँ ये translation ठीक है. But let's check out some comments again. अच्छा डिबेट चल रहा है वहाँ पे. On Hindi speaking, I am of Subramaniam Swami's views that instead of making Hindi a national language, we should make Devanagari script as a national script. We have enough Sanskrit influence on all languages of India that if we have at least a common script, we would be able to understand most of our country's language. देवनागरी स्क्रिप्ट के साथ बंगाल का बंगाली लैंग्वेज का एटलीस्ट कनेक्शन इज़ नॉट वेरी क्लोज. एक दो सिमिलरिटी थोड़ा बहुत है, मगर आई हैव एक्चुअली लर्नड हिंदी एज माई थर्ड लैंग्वेज फॉर 1 year or 2 year, and even now it takes me about 5 minutes to read a complete Hindi sentence. तो स्क्रिप्ट कंपलसरी करने से वो कठिन होगा ही. तो वैसे भी संस्कृत, आई एम सेइंग संस्कृत शुड बी द नेशनल लैंग्वेज, तो संस्कृत नेशनल लैंग्वेज होगा तो देवनागरी तो वैसे भी सीखना पड़ेगा ही लोगों को, क्योंकि बंगाली में संस्कृत सीखना विल क्रिएट डिस्टॉर्शन इन द प्रोनाउंसिएशंस ठीक रखना है तो एक अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऑफिशियल स्क्रिप्ट चाहिए ही. तो देवनागरी को भी नेशनल स्क्रिप्ट भी बनाना होगा और संस्कृत को भी नेशनल लैंग्वेज भी बनाना होगा, दोनों ही करना होगा. Devanagari does not have consonants and vowels that work in other languages. Yeah. How can script help understanding a language? Script can help in understanding a language because the script will give you the actual pronunciation of that. Referring to the debates between ulema ranged for or against the Pakistan demand, Metcalfe writes that Dhulipala needed to recognize that this one-sided sources for Usmani and Thanawi require analysis in terms of standard debate rhetoric, where opponents are always silent, look abashed, change the subject, and so forth. She suggests that I have sometimes overread the text under analysis. It is difficult to understand the thrust of her criticism, especially her reference to, quote, one-sided sources. Firstly, it should surprise no one if Thanavi or Uthmani or Madani made the strongest possible arguments for their respective positions. This is customary in any debate. Secondly, the opposing sets of ulema maintained courtesies of debate by carefully laying out their opponents' views, pointing out their weaknesses and critiquing them before presenting their own position and playing up its merits. For example, before aligning himself with the League and issuing fatwas in its favor, Thanvi sent questionnaires to the nationalist ulema in the Jamiat Ulema Hind as well as to the Muslim League to elicit their respective views on issues facing Indian Muslims and try to find common ground between them. Similarly, his critique of the so-called nationalist ulema, while sharp, included a sober assessment of their claims. Their writings and pamphlets were thus hardly one-sided. Thirdly, for Metcalfe, to refer to Uthmani or Thanawi's public speeches, statements, or writings as being so-called one-sided sources, or to how is this one-sided source? One-sided sources, or to their opponents as always silent, looking abashed, changing the subjects, and so forth, is profoundly misleading for another reason. कितना पेज हुआ? अच्छा, आज भी 15 पेज हो गए already. Thirdly, for तो is profoundly misleading for another reason. Their utterances were not made in a vacuum but were part of a raucous public debate on vital questions confronting Indian Muslims, including the choice of supporting the Congress or the League, undivided India or Pakistan. Thus, Thanawi's fatwa Tanzim al-Muslimin, asking Muslims to spurn the Congress and leave the Congress and organize themselves under the Muslim League's banner as Allah's Lashkar, his fatwas to Muslim voters to vote for Muslim League candidates, or his fatwa against Bande Mataram, Hindi, and the tricolour were widely circulated in by-elections in the UP legislature. These messages were forcefully countered by Madni and his associates, who, through their own fatwas and arguments, supported the Congress candidates and sought to defeat Muslim League candidates. The amplitude of campaigning by both sides was accentuated by the stakes involved. For the Congress, it was an opportunity to substantiate its claims of being India's only party that represented all Indians irrespective of caste, creed, religion, language, or gender. For the Muslim League, it was a struggle for survival and the chance to bolster its claims of being the, quote, sole authoritative and representative organization of the Indian Muslims. The debate between these opposing sets of ulema reverberated across India during the 1945-46 elections, when Uthmani and the nationalist ulema clashed with each other. In the light of these raucous public exchanges, it is strange for Metcalfe to refer to so-called one-sided sources, more so since she concludes her review by observing that Dhulipala has richly succeeded in making a case for the extraordinary density of public debate on the Pakistan idea. Again, she makes a claim, then contradicts it in her conclusion at the end of the paragraph. Yes, Niranjanda, Devanagari and Sanskrit is perfect. That's my point. Devanagari script may not be helpful in learning Tamil. Yeah. Most people in India can already read Devanagari. Tamil should be written in Tamil script. For Sanskrit, it should be Devanagari. Earlier, Sanskrit used to be written in many scripts. Yeah, that is why I was hesitating in making that claim, because earlier Sanskrit was read and written in every language. Okay, but here's one difference between back then and now, is that since it was only the Brahmins and mainly Brahmins who were writing, people who are experts, no matter where you are, if you are a Brahmin, you are an expert in Sanskrit, you are an expert in Vedas, Puranas, the mantras, shlokas, shuktas, everything. So even if you write in Bengali, you know what the pronunciation is supposed to be. But today, after generations of not knowing any Sanskrit, not even knowing properly your own mother tongue in India, now if we teach the absolutely fresh new virgin generation of kids Sanskrit and teach it in Bengali, let's say, they are going to pronounce it absolutely horribly, absolutely wrongly. You'll have to tell them that no, this is a Bengali letter, but it's Sanskrit. So even if this is supposed to be ha, you say it as her, because that's how it would be in Sanskrit. That's going to be an extra step of difficulty. Okay, that's the problem. So it's just इससे अच्छा है कि देवनागरी में ही पढ़ा दो, in which it's more common to understand those pronunciations. But the problem with making Sanskrit, Harsh Jha says, but the problem with making Sanskrit a national language is that we don't even have a million people who speak Sanskrit in a country of 1.4 billion. I think the opposition against Sanskrit will come from Hindi belt, because South Indian languages have a lot of word borrowing from Sanskrit, but we Hindi speaking people have borrowed Arabic and Persian words. देखो जिसको भी national language बनाओगे, किसी को ना किसी को तो opposition करना ही है. That's not important. But I will disagree with you on your first comment, Harsh, because remember, Israel is the example here. Hebrew was almost forgotten. The guy who kept saying that no, resurrect Hebrew, Hebrew resurrect नहीं करोगे तो epistemically Judaism का भी कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. That guy said it all his life. He died after that Israel officially resurrected Hebrew with everyone's hard work. Hard work से ही संस्कृत भी resurrect होगा. Hard work से ही Hebrew resurrect हुआ है. Hebrew was a forgotten language just like Sanskrit today. So make it official, make people learn it from their childhood days, and this number that so many people don't know Sanskrit, that will change. That number will change when after you make it compulsory, after you make it a national language. It needs a change in education system, and one generation people will pick up Sanskrit. Exactly. Oh, I once saw, Nainer is saying, I once saw there was a concept called Deshnagari script, a new script which included correct vowels and consonants for all Indian languages. It was to write all Indian languages in a single script. अरे वाह, तो ये तो अब तो ये forgotten history hai. This makes a stronger case for Sanskrit because it is not widely spoken, so any region don't have advantage over others. Aniket Gautam, you have made an interesting point, but there is actually a counter to what you are saying, okay? And it's that counter comes from Shashi Tharoor. So I don't agree with it, but it's not entirely nothing, okay? The point he makes is that making Hindi or Sanskrit, etc., making that the national language will actually give more advantages to some people and not to others. Because a lot of other languages like Bengali, Marathi, Hindi, these have so much Sanskrit words that they will have an unfair advantage of people who speak languages with absolutely no Sanskrit influences. That is, let's say Anglo-Indians or Urdu-speaking Muslims, they have no Sanskrit, so it will be a problem for them. So what Shashi Tharoor is saying for English is what you are saying for Sanskrit. Shashi Tharoor says that that's why English can be made the national language, so that not officially, he defends it that way. He has never made a claim that no, let's make English national language today. But he says that if English does become the national language, everyone starts from an equal footing, because it's absolutely nobody's mother tongue, maybe just Anglo-Indians. So that's how it's a more egalitarian and democratic concept, making English the national language, because everyone will have equal difficulty in learning it. बट इक्वल डिफिकल्टी कभी भी नहीं होगा. जिसके जिसके 3 जनरेशन 4 जनरेशन से फैमिली में इंग्लिश बोल रहे हैं, उसको तो एडवांटेज होगा ही. इंग्लिश पिक्चर देखेगा, इंग्लिश कॉमिक्स पढ़ के बड़ा होगा, उसको तो एडवांटेज होने ही वाला. तो एडवांटेज डिसएडवांटेज किसी को ना किसी को है ही. तो एपिस्टेमोलॉजिकली संस्कृत मेक्स द मोस्ट सेंस टू अंडरस्टैंड आवर टेक्स्ट, आवर पास्ट, आवर विजडम. तो दैट्स वाई ultimately Sanskrit has to be shoved down people's throats. Sanskrit has to be imposed all over India. It's actually good if children learn more than one language. Yeah, वो तो है. तो संस्कृत, मदर टंग एंड इंग्लिश, ये 3 तो लर्न करना ही है. First make Hinduism the national religion of India and give it the first priority and save it from conversions. National religion of India का मतलब क्या होगा? मतलब पॉलिसी बेसिस पे आई डोंट थिंक देयर इज मच टू डू ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ हिंदुइज्म. तो नाम हिंदू राष्ट्र दे सकते हैं, दैट कैन वर्क. एंड सेव इट फ्रॉम कन्वर्जन. सेव इट फ्रॉम कन्वर्जन्स में भी एक प्रॉब्लम है कि हाउ डू यू सेपरेट द पर्सन हु एक्चुअली वांट्स टू कन्वर्ट आउट ऑफ हिज ओन अकॉर्ड. ओके, वो फ्रीडम तो होना है. दैट ओके, मैंने पढ़ा है, मैंने हिंदुइज्म पूरा पढ़ लिया है, बाइबल पढ़ लिया है, कुरान पढ़ लिया है, नाउ आई एम पिकिंग अ रिलीजन आउट ऑफ माई ओन इंटेलिजेंस. उसको कैसे रोकेंगे आप, और क्यों रोकेंगे? But I realize that number is insanely negligibly small. Most conversions are unfairly some sinister activities going on. So there has to be a line drawn. There is a gray area in preventing conversions. I'm just glad that I'm not a politician, so that I don't have to make these decisions. First make Hinduism, then okay. Harsh is saying, but we are not comparable in size to Israel. Ittu sa to desh hai Israel. वहाँ they can shove down a language their throat, but with our side that's a big problem. That is true. But see, Israel is not the only place where the Jews learned Hebrew. After Israel made the effort to give Hebrew the rebirth, so to speak, it's now Hebrew is commonly understood by every Jew all over the world. So that number is not as small as the population of Israel. Remember that. Every Jew in USA knows Hebrew. तो ultimately ये थोड़ा टॉप डाउन ही होना है. तो अगर डिसीजन ऑफिशियली हो जाएगा कि हाँ संस्कृत नेशनल लैंग्वेज होना है, तो it will have to be changed, and everything can be phased out, right? Right now we don't even have a national language. Even on the उससे भी we are working. तो when actually national language happens, उसमें भी प्रॉब्लम उतना, मतलब it's not going to be impossible. But epistemologically resistance तो ज़रूरी है. वो epistemological resistance कभी नहीं होगा अगर we keep using so many Arabic words and English words in our languages. That's my main problem. क्योंकि some words mean some things and it represents the culture, represents the way of thinking of those people who came up with those words, and that's what I want to rid my language from. Like I have given this example many times. Artha means meaning, artha means wealth. So are they supposed to be same? Are they supposed to be interchangeable? ये सब समझ में कब आएगा अगर हम संस्कृत नहीं सीखेंगे तो is meaning wealth? Is wealth meaning? ये सब analysis तो होना है ना. The argument you mention about, okay, कुछ comment miss कर गया शायद. अरे बहुत comment miss हो गया. हाँ, Prakram Divya is saying, if people love their languages so much, they should donate and volunteer to provide services in every language. Hinduism is expressed in every language, so no issue when it comes to religion. They should donate. Okay, people who love Bengali, they are donating and creating these movements called Bangla Pakko, and they are trying to kick out Biharis from West Bengal. शशु थरूर का ये लॉजिक सोशलिज्म टाइप है कि कुछ लोग गरीब है तो इंस्टेड ऑफ मेकिंग देम रिच सबको गरीब बना दो. या किसी को तो गरीब बनना ही है, किसी को डिसएडवांटेज होना ही है किसी भी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. लैंग्वेज आर ऑलवेज स्पोकन थ्रू टॉप डाउन अप्रोच एंड देन स्पोकन बाय मासेस. Sanskrit will assist in preserving other Indian languages because its sheer influence on them. That's a very good point. So like yesterday I shared a meme on my Facebook that Dravidians are saying that हिंदी के लिए तमिल लैंग्वेज खराब हो जाएगा, मगर इंग्लिश के लिए तमिल लैंग्वेज खराब नहीं होता है. तो when people learn Sanskrit, by default it will give a push to other understanding and better having better fluency over other Indian mother tongues, regional Prakrits. In Malaysia and Indonesia, they made the official religion Islam. In India, Hinduism as well. तो मलेशिया एंड इंडोनेशिया ने ऑफिशियल रिलीजन जो मुस्लिम किया है, उससे उन्होंने क्या उखाड़ लिया? जो उखाड़ा है वो इकोनॉमिक्स के लिए, वो एक इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है. वी शुड टेक बॉटम टू टॉप अप्रोच विथ संस्कृत. मगर कैसे? बॉटम टू टॉप, देखिए, हाँ, बॉटम टू टॉप अप्रोच एक तरफ से तो इन वन सेंस इट हैज़ टू बी दिस वे दैट वी ऑल हैव टू कीप टॉकिंग अबाउट दीज थिंग्स, वी हैव टू कीप मेकिंग दीज डिमांड्स. ये थोड़ा बॉटम टू टॉप अप्रोच तो है. थोड़ा बहुत पर्सनल लाइफ में मेकिंग एन एफर्ट टू लर्न संस्कृत, थोड़ा ऐप डाउनलोड करके, जैसे कि मैं बंगाली में ऋग्वेद पढ़ रहा हूँ सो दैट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड इट बेटर. इंग्लिश में ब्रह्म पुराण पढ़ रहा हूँ, वहाँ पे तो संस्कृत लिख के फिर इंग्लिश का ट्रांसलेशन नहीं है, तो वहाँ से मेरा कुछ ट्रांसलेशन सेंस नहीं तैयार होगा. मगर मनुस्मृति में देयर इज द संस्कृत ट्रांसलेशन, संस्कृत श्लोका, देन द इंग्लिश ट्रांसलेशन. इन माई ऋग्वेद bengali, there's first the mantra and the shukta is in bengali script but in sanskrit, and then the explanation is given in bengali. So उस ये पढ़ के थोड़ा बहुत सेंस हो जाएगा. मगर ये पर्सनल एफर्ट कौन कितना देगा ज़िंदगी में, वो तो बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. और किस किस चीज़ में लोग देंगे ये अटेंशन? हाँ, क्योंकि अभी तो ये सब बारे में हम क्यों बात कर रहे हैं? क्योंकि ऑल ऑफ अस आर फैंस ऑफ संजय दीक्षित, जेसाई दीपक, एटसेट्रा, संजीव सान्याल, विक्रम संपत. वी हैव हर्ड देयर आर्ग्यूमेंट्स, then we are checking out their podcasts, speeches, interviews, then we are thinking that yeah, Sanskrit should be the national language. Then we'll have to give extra more time to learning Sanskrit. तब ये वीडियो वगैरह देखना, आर्ग्यूमेंट्स समझना, वो सब बंद, सब छोड़ छाड़ के संस्कृत खुद के एफर्ट से सीखना होगा. दैट इज़ गोइंग टू बी आइदर इम्पॉसिबल और मोर प्रॉब्लमेटिक, क्योंकि फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी इज सेविंग द कंट्री एंड द रिलीजन. लैंग्वेज, उस लर्निंग संस्कृत कम्स आफ्टर दैट. फर्स्ट थिंग इज, अरे देखो क्या क्या थ्रेड्स है, थ्रेड्स के लिए ये सब पढ़ना है, ये सब बुक्स अभी बाकी है जो कि इंग्लिश में भी है, हिंदी में भी है, बंगाली में भी है, वो सब पढ़ो. तो आफ्टर दैट थोड़ा अवेयरनेस अगर आ जाए, डिमांड विमांड हो जाए नीचे से, उसके बाद टॉप डाउन ही करना है. बॉटम से सिर्फ एफर्ट, सिर्फ कॉल्स आ सकता है इस टॉपिक पे, बाकी ऊपर से ही थ्रस्ट करना होगा. दैट इज़ द प्रॉब्लम. अगर ये किसी मुस्लिम और क्रिश्चियन विलेज में होता तो वो लोगों को जिंदा जला देते. विच एस्पेक्ट यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट, हर्ष? सो हिंदू राष्ट्र, देन हाउ विल गवर्नमेंट डिक्लेयर दैट इंडिया इज नाउ हिंदू राष्ट्र? इट हैज़ टू बी जस्ट अ नेम बेस्ड फॉर्मेलिटी, लाइक टर्की मेड देयर नेम तुर्की. क्या हो गया उससे? सिर्फ एक नेम चेंज हुआ. वी विल से दैट वी आर नॉट अ सेक्युलर स्टेट, वी आर अ हिंदू सेक्युलर स्टेट. It's shocking that Dravidians have problem with Hindi. Okay, you are saying in that context that if that happened in yeah. It's shocking that Dravidians have problem with Hindi because it's Aryan language, but they don't have any problem with Urdu. Urdu is also an Aryan language. It's more more Aryan, because Aryan is supposed to be from steppes or Iran, etc. So, Nina is saying English is also an Indo-Aryan language. Lol, they don't have problem with that also. Yeah, वो तो है. रेड अर्लियर कमेंट्स. अच्छा, तो आज का पेपर डिस्कशन यहीं पे बंद कर देते हैं, और 5-10 मिनट कमेंट्स चेक करके हम बंद कर देते हैं स्ट्रीम, ठीक है? बिकॉज आई कॉन्ट कॉन्सेंट्रेट एनी मोर ऑन दिस. 2.5 घंटा हो गया आज पेपर पढ़ रहा हूँ. इतना पढ़ाई स्कूल में कर लिया होता तो ओके, लेट्स क्लोज दिस विंडो. सो read earlier comments of that zinda jala dunga part. Okay, no, not in that context. Okay, so we'll pick it up tomorrow again, tomorrow 12 p.m. most probably, if I don't have any other urgent music work. So we'll keep on with the discussion of this paper. Bottom to top approach, like we should teach language to European and American like we did with yoga. अच्छा, मगर इससे इंडियंस को क्या बेनिफिट होगा? इंडिया में जो प्रॉब्लम है कि किसी को ठीक से बांग्ला नहीं आता है, मराठी नहीं आता है, इंग्लिश बोले जा रहे हैं या हिंदी बोल रहे हैं विथ टू मच अरबिक एंड फारसी, वो प्रॉब्लम तो नहीं जाएगा अनलेस दे आर टॉट संस्कृत फ्रॉम डे वन इन स्कूल. मैं एकदम बच्चों से शुरू करने का बात बोल रहा हूँ. इन हिंदू राष्ट्र, नो कास्टिज्म एंड अनटचेबिलिटी, ओनली सनातन धर्म, ऑल आर वन, ओनली देयर वर्क्स विल डिटरमाइन व्हाट काइंड दे आर. तो हाँ, हिंदू सेक्युलर स्टेट में ये सब तो होने ही वाला है, मगर अभी भी इट्स सपोजिटली नो कास्टिज्म. तो नो कास्टिज्म डज नॉट मेक अ डिफरेंस. हिंदू राष्ट्र होके एक्स्ट्रा क्या होगा? ओनली देयर वर्क्स विल डिटरमाइन व्हाट काइंड दे आर. तो एक और प्रॉब्लम है कि इवन नाउ उपनयन संस्कारा इज गोइंग ऑन. people who have no idea of Rig Vedas, they are getting their janeus. So casteism is in a way still being practiced by these people. It's not harming anyone, but it's also kind of disrespecting the janeu itself. It's think of it like a black belt. A janeu is a black belt of knowledge. Of it's a proof that you were born, you were twice born. What was that? Dvija in Dvija. So yeah, Vidya Janma. Dvija means Vidya Janma. तो विद्या हुआ ही नहीं, विद्या जन्मा कैसे बन गया जनेऊ लेके? So that's a disrespect to the Janeu itself. Imagine someone who does not know any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is given a black belt just because his grandfather had a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. So this phenomenon of giving Janeu to everyone and anyone in the Brahmin family, that needs to be stopped by the society itself. It cannot happen from government. Purohits, priests, families need to tell their kids or themselves that read some Vedas, read Manusmriti, read Mahabharata, Ramayana in authentic translations or Sanskrit, and learn your shit, and then we'll have an Upanayana Samskara for you. And same with Kshatriya castes. तो क्षत्रिय, मैं क्षत्रिय था, कितना मजे का बात है, 4 पुशअप करने को बोलो हक देगा. ऐसे क्षत्रिय लेके हम क्या करें? Now I have a Christian neighbor. बहुत कमेंट्स आ गया. In Sangam talks, Rahul Diwan gave argument that instead of giving speech in Hindi in Tamil Nadu, he should give speech in Gujarati and then translate to Tamil. तो ऐसे स्पीच कैसे होगा? ये तो लॉजिस्टिकल एक प्रॉब्लम है. वो अपने आप गुजराती में बात करेगा, फिर तमिल होगा, ऐसा तो कोई ट्रांसलेशन कौन करेगा? वो तो इम्पैक्ट नहीं होगा. जिसको जो भाषा पता है उसको वो भाषा तो बोलना ही होगा. ये तो ये कॉमन सेंस है. इतना एक्सेप्टिंग भी नहीं हो सके तो वो बहुत ही बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. when are we going to talk about English imposition on Indians? इसका तो it's too late for that. इम्पोज जो हुआ है इंग्लिश, ये समझने के लिए ही तो पहले जैसाई दीपक का वीडियोस देखना पड़ेगा. Why BJP is pro Hindustani Hindi rather than Sanskrit? Because it's easy. This is easily expeditable. इसलिए मज़ा आ रहा है उनको थोड़ा. अभी नेशनल लैंग्वेज नहीं होगा तो वो जो इतना बड़ा लॉजिस्टिक्स का जो प्रोग्राम्स हो रहा है कि ऊबर होगा एक लाइक from ship. Have you guys seen those videos of Think School on the logistical changes, reformations that Indian government is bringing in terms of carrying goods from this place to that place? So let's say some goods arrive at the ports, the trucks will take them to other places, and you can see like your Uber app, you can see which warehouse to keep my stuff, which truck to book. So all this has to happen in some common language. तो वहाँ कौन इंग्लिश बोलेगा? उसके लिए तो हिंदी चाहिए ना. इसलिए बीजेपी इज पुशिंग हिंदी, बट वेरी सटली. दे आर केयरफुल अबाउट इट. नहीं तो बंगाल और तमिलनाडु गया अगले 50 साल के लिए भी. तो दे आर बीइंग वेरी केयरफुल अबाउट इट, बट सटली दे आर पुशिंग हिंदी. बट बिकॉज दैट्स ईजी. अभी संस्कृत सिखाएंगे अगले जनरेशन को, फिर वो 50 साल बाद 30 साल बाद वर्कफोर्स ज्वाइन करेंगे, उसके बाद हम सब फ़ोन पे संस्कृत में बात करके लॉजिस्टिक्स करेंगे. ऐसा तो नहीं होगा. तो देयर इज सम सॉर्ट ऑफ अ नीड फॉर एन अर्जेंट नेशनल लैंग्वेज एंड विच हैज़ टू बी हिंदी एनी वे. बट ये भी करो पैरेलली, संस्कृत भी नेशनल लैंग्वेज कर दो, ताकि कभी ना कभी तो चेंज हो. दैट इज़ व्हाट आई एम सेइंग. एंड आई फियर दिस इज जस्ट अ स्टार्ट. इन तमिलनाडु Modi speaks in English and then it is translated to Tamil. In Tamil Nadu Modi speaks in English. हैं? ये तो कभी नहीं पता था. पहले स्पीच पूरा इंग्लिश में देता है, देन तमिल में होता है. ये क्या अजीब बात है. अरे मेरा फ़ोन ही हैंग हो गया. ऐसा करता है मोदी तमिलनाडु में. हाँ, देन तो ऑब्वियसली he should speak in Gujarati and then someone should translate it in Tamil. अगर कोई ट्रांसलेट कर ही रहा है. हाँ, अगर ये सब तमिलनाडु में करेगा मगर बंगाल में नहीं करेगा, बंगाल में आके सिर्फ हिंदी में बोल के चला जाएगा, तो तब तो बांग्ला पक्ष को और भी बोलने का मौका मिल जाएगा कि हाँ देखो तमिल लोग यूनाइटेड है, द्रविडियन खेल रहे हैं, इसलिए इतना उनका बढ़ावा है. तो ही शुड डेफिनेटली स्पीक इन गुजराती एंड देन समवन शुड ट्रांसलेट इट. इंग्लिश में क्यों बोल रहे हैं? इंग्लिश में भी कुछ लोगों को समझ में आएगा, इसलिए इंग्लिश में बोल दे रहा है. दैट इज़ ऑल्सो द ईजी वे आउट. Because the area where the Christian family lives in a slum type area. अच्छा, so Harsh's neighbors are changing. Okay, Praful Rawat is saying that will force Indian people to learn Sanskrit. They will see that other outsiders learning our language, then people will force government to add Sanskrit and nobody will fight over it like yoga. No, Praful Rawat ji, nobody says that yoga is Bengali or Marathi or South Indian or North Indian. Yes, but that was happening because of a sort of coloniality, which is now gradually going away even from the next generation of mainstream kids. Okay, at least in official towns and suburbs, etc. Not in maybe urban areas, Bombay, etc. Bombay, Kolkata, but ये बाहर वाले कर रहे हैं इसलिए हमको भी करना है. वो टाइम भी गया, ये नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में नहीं होने वाला है. सो बाहर वाले संस्कृत सीख रहे हैं इसलिए हमको भी संस्कृत सीखना है. दैट टाइम इज गोइंग टू गो अवे. तो इट्स बेटर दैट वी डू इट ऑन आवर ओन. बाहर वाले संस्कृत बोलेंगे तो ठीक है, आप जो सजेशन दे रहे हैं वो भी होना चाहिए पैरेलली, बट आई एम सेइंग दैट्स नॉट द ओनली सोल्यूशन. Yeah, even Annamalai was talking about that logistics thing. Because Tamil Nadu has a good English speaking population too, Modi was catering to that. But, ठीक है, he will have to choose between Tamil Nadu and Bengal then. Okay guys, that's the end of our live stream today. Let's stop here. It's about 3 hours now. It was great fun discussing so many various topics. We'll continue with this paper tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Good night.